I stood in the middle of the kitchen, the cold tile beneath my feet feeling like ice against my skin. "Anna, did you even hear me?" Mrs. Thompson's voice was sharp, a knife slicing through the tense air. I turned, meeting her stern gaze. "I heard you, Mrs. Thompson. You want fish for dinner." "And not just any fish," she insisted, her eyes narrowing. "Get tuna, the fresh kind. Lily loves it." As if on cue, Lily, my 16-year-old stepdaughter, strutted into the kitchen, her phone glued to her ear. She barely acknowledged my presence, her eyes rolling dramatically. Fish again? I want a burger. Go get me one, Anna." The demands weren't new, but they stung each time. I was more a servant than a family member in this house. A deep breath steadied my voice. "But I'm already preparing dinner." Lily cut me off. "So I want a burger. Can't you do that one little thing for me?" Mrs. Thompson chimed in, her voice laced with feigned concern. "She's just a kid who wants a burger, Anna. It's not about being stingy." The word stingy hung in the air, a label I'd become too familiar with in this household. They had no idea about the financial tightrope we were walking on. My job in administration barely covered the essentials, and Michael's sporadic earnings as a struggling writer added little. "Fine, I'll get the burger," I muttered, feeling a familiar knot of frustration in my stomach. As I turned to leave, Lily's voice stopped me. "And I need $100. I spun around, disbelief written across my face. $100? For what? "There's this new game everyone has. I need it." I looked towards Mrs. Thompson, hoping for some semblance of reason. Instead, she nodded in agreement. "Poor thing. She needs to fit in with her friends. Give her the money, Anna." "But this month's budget is already stretched thin," I protested weakly. Mrs. Thompson's expression hardened. "Are you suggesting we're not entitled to Michael's royalties? What kind of stepmother are you?" "A stepmother trying to keep us afloat," I wanted to say. But the words never came. Instead, I reached for my purse, the weight of their expectations heavier than the coins and notes it contained. The evening air was crisp as I returned from the store, bags weighing down my arms. Inside them, a symbol of my surrender, a tuna and a burger. As I entered the house, the scent of disdain was more pungent than the food's aroma. "Finally," Lily scoffed, snatching the bag with the burger. "Took you long enough?" I set the tuna on the kitchen counter, meeting Mrs. Thompson's scrutinizing gaze. "Here's the fish, Mrs. Thompson." She inspected it with a frown. "It could be fresher. Next time, put in more effort, Anna." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. Michael was in his study, probably lost in his world of make-believe literary fame. I longed for him to see the reality, our dwindling savings, the mounting bills, and his family's insatiable demands. Later that night I lay in bed, the moon casting shadows across the room. Michael's voice broke the silence. "Anna, you seem distant lately. Is everything okay?" I turned to face him, the moonlight revealing his oblivious expression. "It's just your family, and our finances. It's overwhelming." He brushed off my concerns with a wave of his hand. "Don't worry about money. Writers don't. It stifles creativity, and my family, well, they're just set in their ways." "But Michael, the reality is—" I started, but he interrupted. "Reality is subjective. In my world, my next novel will be a bestseller. You'll see." I wanted to scream, to shake him into seeing the truth. But I bit my tongue, a tear escaping down my cheek. I turned away, the unsaid words festering in my heart. The next morning, Lily's taunts and Mrs. Thompson's criticisms resumed. As I prepared breakfast, I overheard Lily talking to her friend on the phone. "She's so pathetic, pretending to be our mom. I wish Dad would just divorce her already." The words pierced through me like icy daggers. I wanted to confront her, to defend myself, but I remained silent, my hands trembling as I poured the coffee. At work, my colleague Jane noticed my forlorn expression. "Anna, you okay? You've seemed off lately." I sighed, the dam of my emotions ready to burst. "It's just home stuff, you know how it is." Jane leaned in, her voice a whisper. "If it's that bad, maybe it's time to think about yourself. You deserve happiness too, you know." Just her words echoed in my mind all day. Happiness, a distant dream smothered by the burden of illusions I was living under. The world outside was bathed in a soft, golden hue of the setting sun, but inside, the walls of the house felt like they were closing in on me. It had been another day of juggling insults and managing the impossible demands of my stepfamily. As I entered the living room, the sight that greeted me stopped me dead in my tracks. Half of the furniture was gone. The room, once cluttered with Mrs. Thompson's countless knickknacks and Lily's gadgets, was now eerily empty. A cold dread settled in my stomach. I reached for my phone, dialing Michael's number. It rang and rang, until finally his voice came through, distant and cold. "Anna, you noticed, huh?" "What's going on, Michael? Where is everything?" His laugh was hollow. "We've moved, Anna, to a high-rise condo. A fresh start, you know?" My heart pounded in my chest. A fresh start? Without me? "You can join us if you want, but you'll need to apologize first." "Apologize? For what? Keeping us from bankruptcy? For enduring their endless ridicule?" In the background, I could hear Lily's voice, laced with malice. "She finally realized she's not wanted. Good riddance." Mrs. Thompson's voice joined the chorus. "Michael deserves better. Someone who appreciates his talent." Their words were like venom, and with each syllable, the last threads of my attachment to this family frayed and snapped. "Michael," I said, my voice steady, "I won't be joining you. I hope you find what you're looking for in your new condo." There was a pause, and then a scoff. "How noble of you, Anna." The call ended, leaving me in a silence that was both suffocating and liberating. The next few days were a blur. I packed my belongings, each item a reminder of a life filled with false hopes and unreciprocated love. The divorce papers arrived soon after, with Michael's signature scrawled across them. As I signed them, a sense of freedom washed over me. This was the point of no return. I was leaving behind the life of a woman scorned, and stepping into a future where my worth wasn't tied to the whims of a family that never saw me as one of their own. I left the house for the last time, the divorce papers in my bag. The world outside seemed different now, brighter, full of possibilities. I was no longer Anna, the unwanted stepmother. I was just Anna, and that was enough. The first morning in my new apartment greeted me with a quiet that was both unfamiliar and comforting. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the sparse yet cozy space I now called home. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. Sitting at my small dining table, I sipped my coffee and reflected on the whirlwind of changes. I had left behind the toxic environment of my previous life, and, with it, the shadows that had clung to my spirit. Now it was just me, my thoughts, and the blank pages of a notebook that lay open in front of me. Writing had always been a secret passion of mine, a hidden outlet for my emotions. But in the chaos of my life with Michael and his family, it had been pushed aside, forgotten. Now the words flowed effortlessly, as if they had been waiting just beneath the surface, eager to be released. As days turned into weeks, I found solace in my newfound freedom and the routine I had established. My job in administration, once a source of stress, now felt manageable, even enjoyable. But it was in the evenings, when I returned to my writing, that I felt truly alive. I wrote about everything, my feelings, my experiences, and even fictional stories that mirrored the journey I had been on. Each word was a step away from my past and a step towards rediscovering who I was. It wasn't long before I decided to take a leap of faith. I submitted some of my work to various publications and writing contests. To my surprise and delight, the response was overwhelmingly positive. My stories resonated with readers, and I began to receive offers for freelance writing jobs. One evening, as I was finishing up a piece, my phone rang. It was Jane, my colleague. "Anna, you won't believe it. Your story won first place in the local writing competition. They loved it." I was speechless. This was more than just a win. It was validation of my talent and my journey. As weeks turned into months, my life settled into a pleasant rhythm. I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving. My relationship with Michael and his family became a distant memory, a chapter of my life that was closed and tucked away. But life has a way of bringing the past back, just when you think you've moved on. It was on a crisp autumn day that I received a call from Michael. His voice, once so familiar, now sounded like a distant echo from another life. "Anna, we need to talk." I hesitated for a moment, the old wounds still tender. But I was not the same woman he had left behind. I was stronger, more resilient. "All right, Michael, let's talk." The coffee shop was bustling with the late afternoon crowd, but the noise faded into the background as I saw Michael sitting at a corner table. He looked older, warier, a shadow of the man I once knew. "Anna, thank you for meeting me," he said, his voice tinged with a desperation I hadn't heard before. I sat down, keeping my expression neutral. What did you want to talk about, Michael? He hesitated, fidgeting with his coffee cup. It's about the condo and everything, really. We're in trouble, Anna. I listened, my heart void of the sympathy I once would have felt. Michael spoke of financial woes, the high-rise dream turning into a nightmare of debts and disillusionment. Lily and Mrs. Thompson, once so demanding, were now facing the harsh reality of their situation. I thought my writing would save us, but... Michael's voice trailed off, his eyes not meeting mine. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who had dismissed my concerns about money was now drowning in the very thing he had ignored. Michael, I'm sorry to hear that, but why tell me this? We're divorced. Your financial problems aren't mine anymore. He looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. I was hoping maybe you could help us, just until I get back on my feet. The request was absurd, almost laughable. Help you? After everything that's happened? Michael leaned in, his voice low. You were always good with money, Anna, and you've always been kind-hearted. Kind-hearted. The term felt like a slap. I had been kind-hearted, and it had been taken for granted, exploited. Michael, I've moved on. I have my own life now, my own expenses. I can't help you. His face fell, the reality of my words sinking in. I see. I just thought. What did you think, Michael? That I'd come running back to fix the mess you've created? He didn't respond, the silence between us growing heavier by the second. Finally, I stood up. I wish you the best, Michael. I truly do, but your life is no longer my concern. As I walked away, leaving Michael in the coffee shop, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was the final closure I needed. The last remnants of a life I no longer belonged to had been shed. The crisp autumn air was a refreshing contrast to the warmth of my apartment. As I sat at my desk, the glow of the computer screen illuminated the room. It had been a few months since my last encounter with Michael, and life had settled into a comforting rhythm of work and writing. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a call from Jane. Anna, you won't believe this. Your novel is being considered for a movie adaptation. I was stunned. My novel, born from the pain and turmoil of my past, had not only resonated with readers, but had also caught the attention of a film producer. It felt surreal, like a dream I was afraid to wake up from. Are you serious, Jane? That's incredible. Her excitement mirrored mine. I told you, Anna, you're a fantastic writer. This is just the beginning. As I ended the call, a profound sense of accomplishment washed over me. My journey, with all its hardships, had led me to this moment. In the weeks that followed, negotiations for the movie adaptation progressed rapidly. My novel, which detailed the struggles of a woman finding her strength amidst adversity, was going to be on the big screen. One evening, as I was reflecting on these developments, a news alert popped up on my phone. It was about Michael. Curiosity piqued. I clicked on the link. The article detailed Michael's latest misfortune. His attempts at writing had finally come to a futile end. Publishers had lost interest, citing his lack of originality and poor sales. To add to his woes, his high-rise dream had crumbled. Unable to keep up with the rent and mounting debts, he and his family had been forced to move out. I read the article with a mix of emotions. There was no joy in seeing someone's life unravel, but there was a sense of poetic justice. Michael and his family, who had once looked down on me, were now facing the consequences of their actions and choices. As I turned off my phone, I realized that this was the true essence of karma. It wasn't about revenge or seeing others suffer. It was about the natural balance of life where actions and choices inevitably shaped one's destiny. I turned back to my writing, the words flowing freely. My experiences had taught me that strength comes from within, and that resilience is born from adversity. And now I was sharing those lessons with the world. My past with Michael and his family was a closed chapter, but it had given me the greatest gift, the realization of my own potential and the courage to pursue my dreams. As the moon cast a gentle light through my window, I smiled to myself. Life was unpredictable, filled with ups and downs, but I was ready for whatever came next. I had found my voice, my purpose, and no one could take that away from me.
I have a new girlfriend now, and I'm moving in with her. We're getting a divorce, and you should go stay with your parents. I don't understand what you're saying. I don't need you anymore. If you want, you can live with my parents and take care of the house. Julian, you get it. My in-laws and my husband laugh at me, they're terrible people. But for me, this is better, so all of you need to leave. My name is Julianne, and I'm 35 years old. I work in an office. I've spent my whole life working. After college, I started working for a big company. For 13 years, I worked hard and earned promotions. Now I'm a department manager at a young age. I have a great boss and a team of talented coworkers. Work is fulfilling, but my personal life hasn't been. I had a boyfriend in college, but none since I started working. Worried about me, a friend hosted a dinner party where I met Jake. He was kind, had a nice smile, and we had a lot in common. We became friends, exchanged numbers, and started going out to eat together. Eventually, he told me he liked me, and we started dating. We got along great. He proposed, and we got married. I was overjoyed to marry the man I loved deeply. Soon after, I visited his parents' home to meet them. They were very kind and warmly welcomed me. Julianne, it's wonderful to meet you. I can't believe such a lovely person is marrying our Jake, they said with tears in their eyes. We're so proud of our son for bringing such a good woman here. Hey Mom and Dad, cut it out. You're scaring Julianne. Oh dear, if you really feel that way, you can say so. It's just a compliment, so don't worry. His parents were very friendly and easy to talk to, much like him. Julianne works for a big company, right? Yes, she does. It's impressive to see a woman who works hard. Will you stop working after you're married? No, I plan to keep working. Well, having a stable job at a good company is a good thing. I felt relieved. Some of my friends had mothers-in-law who urged them to quit their jobs, saying it was a wife's duty to support her husband, so I was grateful. I thought to myself that my future mother-in-law was understanding and kind. After we greeted my parents, we got married. I was filled with excitement about our new life together. My husband moved into my house, and we started our life as newlyweds. I was thrilled to spend all my time with him at home and to have him there when I returned from work. 8 months later, my husband brought up something he wanted to talk about. I'd like us to live with my parents if you're okay with it. What do you mean, live with them? Yes, they're getting older and I'm worried about them. I understand. My parents are around the same age, but my brother and his wife are living with them now, so they're taken care of. But since you're an only child, it makes sense that you're concerned about your parents. Are we moving in with them? Yes, that's the idea. But I'm not sure if there's a spare room available. They use every room for one reason or another. Actually, if you're okay with it, I think it would be a good idea to renovate my parents' house and turn it into a duplex. A duplex? Yeah, that could be a lot more affordable than buying a new house. We get to live in a nice, spacious home and still have our own privacy, right? I think so too. It sounds like a great idea. My in-laws are nice people and living in separate units would make things less stressful. Great, I'm glad you're on board. My parents will be thrilled. I was happy to see my husband so pleased. Later, when my in-laws visited, they were very grateful too. They were such a kind and cheerful family that I didn't mind the idea of living close to them. Soon after our discussion about renovating their house, my husband surprised me with a remark. Actually, I need to ask you a favor. Could you pay for the remodeling? You mean, cover the entire cost? Yes. Why? My husband seemed uneasy. The truth is, we're in debt. I was shocked. Neither my husband nor his parents had ever mentioned this before, not when we were dating or even after we got married. How much debt are we talking about? About $250,000. What? I thought it might be a few tens of thousands, but that's a lot more than I expected, I exclaimed. It must have started small and just kept growing. Even if I wanted to help pay it off, it sounds impossible. My parents are already living on a pension, and the debt keeps piling up. I see. I couldn't hide my surprise and dismay at this sudden revelation. Julianne, I need your help. Will you assist me in paying off my father and father-in-law's debt? They're struggling financially and my own income isn't substantial either. Doesn't that make it difficult for us to renovate the house and live together as planned? No, that's still important to us. You've asked me to cover the remodeling costs and my father's debt, which amounts to $250,000. I understand. These are tough decisions, but I want to build a life with you, Julianne, and I want to support my parents. I love both of them, and I love you. I hate to ask this, but if you truly love me, please help me out. I promise to repay you gradually. I was deeply upset. My husband and his parents had no one else to turn to but me. I knew my husband loved me sincerely, but I felt blindsided by this revelation. Love can sometimes make us overlook such challenges, I thought to myself. All right, I'll take care of it, I reluctantly agreed. After my husband expressed his gratitude and shook my hand, he shared the news with my in-laws, who later came to our house to apologize. My mother-in-law was so moved that she even shed tears of joy. I have to give this my all, I resolved. Taking on my in-laws' debt was now my responsibility, and I was determined to handle it. Though I had some savings, I was apprehensive about paying it all at once. Therefore, I decided to use $60,000 from my savings and pay the rest in installments. During our discussion on repayment, I laid out my installment plan, and my in-laws agreed that it was acceptable. "Why don't you transfer the money directly into the debt repayment account? We're not very good at managing finances, and I'm a bit hesitant about handling a large sum," my husband suggested. My in-laws nodded in agreement. Transferring funds first to their account and then to the repayment account would be cumbersome. Since it was a substantial amount, I didn't want there to be any confusion, so I agreed to transfer the money directly. Once everything was settled, my in-laws appeared visibly relieved. "Now we don't have to worry about the monthly debt payments. It's been really stressful." "Dad, Mom, you should really thank Julianne properly." "Well, I can't count how many times I've thanked you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that Julianne is my son's wife." "No, please, it's okay," I insisted. "I'm just happy to see you both happy." However, deep down, I felt a bit uneasy, concerned they might view me solely as a financial resource. Despite this, I was committed to caring for my beloved husband's family. With their happiness in mind, I began making the payments, and we renovated our house into a two-family home. We started living together in a beautiful and spacious house. My in-laws were thrilled, and my husband's eyes sparkled with joy in our new home. I enjoyed cooking in the new kitchen and appreciated the renovations. It made things more convenient and closer to my work, cutting down my commute and giving me more time for personal pursuits, like studying. I worked tirelessly every day to pay off the debt. However, something troubled me deeply. My husband didn't contribute anything towards paying off his parents' debt. Despite his initial promise to help, he never used any of his own earnings for this purpose. When I asked him about it, he claimed his salary wasn't sufficient. I requested to see his pay stubs, but he refused, leaving me in the dark about his income. For about a year, I diligently worked to reduce the debt. One day, my in-laws inquired about the remaining balance. "If it's been a year, you must have made a dent in the debt, right? We've managed to pay off about $60,000 this year, so there's still roughly $180,000 left," I explained. My in-laws were astonished. "What? You've already paid off that much, Julian? That's incredible. At this rate, you'll clear the debt in about 5 years." "I'm determined to keep working hard until it's paid off," I assured them. "Thank you so much," my husband's parents said, crying tears of joy. Seeing them so happy made all the hard work worth it. A few days later, I faced a surprise. I had to work extra hours, so I told my husband I would be home late. But the work went well, and we finished on time. I hurried home, planning to cook dinner for my family. When I opened the door, I saw my in-laws' shoes. "Oh, my in-laws are here," I thought. I walked towards the living room and overheard my in-laws and husband talking. "You were smart to marry her, Jake. You did well. I can't believe she's so wealthy. When I found out she works for a big company, I made sure to be careful and win her over. You should appreciate her more." "Wow, you're one of the people who caused that debt." "What? But I owe the least." "What are you talking about? How much did you spend on horse racing? Your gambling is terrible." "I hit the jackpot once in a while, so sometimes we were actually ahead." "How can we be ahead when we owe $250,000? But at this rate, we'll be able to pay off the debt and get back on track. That's really great. And she even remodeled our house. I've got a really good wife." "Well, I'll dump her once she pays off the debt," my husband and in-laws laughed. I was so shocked I couldn't move from the front door for a while. After calming down a bit, I made a loud noise closing the door and announced, "I'm home." When I entered the living room, my in-laws and husband greeted me with smiles. "Oh, Julianne, welcome home. Good job, good job. Well, we're going back to our room. Let's have dinner together again soon." Their gentle smiles terrified me because I had overheard their earlier conversation. It shocked me to see my husband pretending to be a loving husband with that smile on his face. "Why didn't you tell me you had to work late today?" "I did, but I finished earlier than expected, so I rushed home to cook dinner." I tried my best to act calm until dinner so my husband wouldn't suspect I had heard anything. Later, while he was taking a bath, I stayed in my room and cried alone. Crying as hard as I could fueled my determination to get back at my husband and in-laws. From then on, I acted swiftly. I started preparing for divorce and made plans for my future. About 5 months passed. I pretended to be happy and told my husband that I had paid off my in-laws' debt. My husband was shocked. "What? You paid off the debt? The $250,000? That was supposed to take about 5 years, right?" "I actually have quite a bit of money saved up, but I was afraid to pay it all off at once. So I started making gradual payments from my salary and savings. But now we're below $200,000, and I thought it would be better to clear the debt in one go. I see, he said. Then I asked, would you like to verify? And showed him the bank book. Oh, it's true. You paid $180,000 in one go. My husband tried to hide his excitement, but I could tell he was eager to leave. Wow, Julianne, thank you. My parents are going to be thrilled. He pretended to wipe tears from his eyes, but I knew it was just an act. Soon after, my in-laws arrived and expressed their gratitude. Thank you so much. We're so grateful to have met Julianne. You're like a blessing. If I hadn't known the truth, their thanks would have made me happy. But I knew their true feelings, and I only pretended to be nice because I was preparing for my plan. A few days later, my husband asked to talk to me. He looked very serious. What's going on? I asked. I'm sorry, Julianne, but you have to leave me. What do you mean? I acted surprised deliberately. I have a new girlfriend and I'm moving in with her. So I'm divorcing you. You'll go stay with my parents. Jake's sudden statement shocked me. While I had overheard their earlier conversation about him planning to leave once the debt was paid, I didn't expect him to openly admit his infidelity. What does he mean by sending me to his parents' place? I don't understand, I said. My husband's demeanor turned cold. You're not very understanding. I don't need you anymore, but you can stay here as a provider or housekeeper. Then the front door opened and my in-laws walked in. Jake, did you finally tell her? Yes, I did. Wish I could have seen her face, Jake replied. You can move in with us if you do the chores. We'll charge you rent, of course. My in-laws and husband laughed at me. They were the worst. All of you need to leave, I said firmly. My in-laws scoffed at my remark. What are you talking about? Have you forgotten? I can easily pay for the house renovation myself. I changed the house title to my name, so I have the right to decide who stays and who goes. My in-laws looked shocked when they remembered the house title was in my name now. I was stunned by their audacity. I'm sorry, but you can't live here anymore. If we divorce, you'll be strangers, I told them firmly. My in-laws realized the gravity of the situation, but my husband, not wanting to be outdone, argued back. But you took on our debt and paid it off. You're the one losing money. If we didn't have debt, we could afford to move out. That's right, my in-laws and husband agreed. Thanks for letting us live in this nice house while you paid off our debts. I'm sorry, but I didn't pay off the remaining $180,000 debt. What? But your bank book showed money missing. That money was from a separate account I managed. The debt remains at $180,000. I delayed the collection process by making continuous large payments, but it's time for the remaining amount to be paid, and you are responsible for it. My husband and in-laws were stunned. Then I confronted them further. Jake, you admitted to cheating, so you'll need to pay. I'll also seek compensation from your partner for the affair. Oh no, she only stayed with me because she thought I had money and a house. If I have to pay alimony, she'll leave me. I'm not concerned about that. Actually, I'm sorry. Please don't leave us, my husband pleaded. My husband feared losing his lover while my in-laws feared losing me. Their selfishness was evident. I want nothing more to do with any of you. I'm putting this house up for sale. Furthermore, I'll be seeking reimbursement of the $120,000 debt I paid on your behalf through my lawyer. My in-laws stood frozen, realizing the severity of their situation. I then pursued divorce and alimony from my husband through legal channels. I also sought alimony from his lover and reimbursement of $120,000 from my in-laws for what I had paid. Actually, the renovated house sold for about $400,000 in a prime location, and it was bought by a family looking for a duplex. After paying off the $120,000 debt and spending $200,000 on renovations, I ended up making a profit of $80,000 from the sale. In addition to that, I received alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner, significantly improving my financial situation. On top of all that, I also received a $120,000 payment from my ex-parents-in-law. Ultimately, I benefited the most from this whole ordeal. I believe this outcome is fair given the significant damage and distrust I experienced. Initially, I had savings from learning how to invest, with the aim of paying off my in-laws' debts quickly. With a solid financial base, I invested tens of thousands of dollars, and my assets grew substantially within a year. Alongside this, I received a raise at work, boosting my income. These financial preparations allowed me to take decisive actions. Unfortunately, my former in-laws ended up in debt again and lost their house, but they brought it upon themselves through their deception. Those who deceive others must face the consequences. This experience has taught me the importance of caution and better judgment in trusting people. Going forward, I plan to continue saving and growing my assets to secure a comfortable future. My goal is to create happy memories with genuinely trustworthy people. For instance, I began by enhancing my financial knowledge through courses and books on investing and personal finance. This foundation enabled me to make well-informed decisions about where to invest my money. As time passed, I diversified my investments across various asset classes such as stocks, bonds, and real estate. This approach helped me steadily and securely increase my wealth. Additionally, I seized opportunities to advance in my career. I pursued additional training and certifications relevant to my profession. These efforts paid off when I achieved a significant promotion and salary increase. The higher income allowed me to save more and adopt a more aggressive investment strategy. Throughout this journey, I maintained focus on my long-term objectives. I aimed to secure a comfortable retirement and ensure financial stability for my later years. I also wanted to be able to assist my loved ones if they ever needed financial support. This vision served as my motivation and kept me disciplined in pursuing my financial goals. Eventually, my hard work paid off. I bought a beautiful home in a wonderful neighborhood and traveled to places I had always dreamed of visiting. More importantly, I cultivated strong relationships with friends and family who genuinely cared about me. These connections brought me immense happiness and satisfaction. Reflecting on my past, I realized that the challenges I faced with my ex-husband and in-laws taught me invaluable lessons. They pushed me to become more independent and knowledgeable about finances. They also underscored the importance of surrounding myself with trustworthy and supportive individuals. In conclusion, I turned a tough situation into an opportunity for personal growth by focusing on my financial well-being and personal development. I created a brighter future for myself. I hope sharing my story inspires others to take charge of their lives and pursue positive changes. My name is Emily, and I'm 35 years old. For the past 10 years, I've been taking care of our home. My husband, Michael, is a doctor. We don't have any children, but we've been pretty happy. Then one day, everything changed. Michael came home late as usual and told me something shocking. I want a divorce. I'm marrying someone else, he said. I was stunned. What do you mean? I asked. We didn't marry for love, he added, and he was right. Our marriage was more of an arrangement. His parents wanted him to marry, and I seemed like a good match. We barely knew each other before we got married. The only thing we really had in common was our last name. Looking back, maybe I liked the idea of sharing the same last name, so we rushed into marriage, and for a while, things were okay. I never thought we'd end up divorcing after 10 years. Even though our marriage wasn't based on love, we'd been together for so long. But now, out of the blue, you want to marry someone else. When did you start betraying me? I asked, but Michael denied it. He said he met this nurse at the hospital about a year ago and was attracted to her charm. He said he was tired of living with someone as boring as me. I was shocked and hurt. How can you say that after all these years? I asked, but Michael was cold. He said living with me had been like hell, and he was done. I agreed to the divorce, even though it broke my heart. Then Michael revealed something else. We don't even need to go through the legal process because I never officially registered our marriage. We were just living together, not legally married. I felt betrayed and angry. Michael had kept this secret from me all these years, and now he was using it to avoid giving me anything in the divorce. The day we thought our marriage would be registered was actually the day it officially ended. I couldn't go because of an urgent matter, he said, but it turns out I never submitted it. Not submitted? Are you joking? We've been living as a married couple for 10 years. It's impossible that you didn't submit it, I exclaimed. Normally, yes. But I made that rule at the beginning. If you went to the office, everything would be ruined. When we got married, we made some rules. I, as a homemaker, would handle all the household chores. I was on an allowance and part-time work was prohibited. And Michael would handle all governmental and official matters. Why would you do such a thing? I asked. Because I was about to be forced into a marriage with someone I didn't love. I wasn't going to submit it easily. I was saving marriage for someone I truly wanted to be with. Then you should have refused the marriage proposal in the first place. I couldn't refuse. My parents are stubborn and wouldn't listen. What would have happened if I said I didn't want to marry? Plus, I wanted a housekeeper. I'm a busy doctor and can't often tend to household chores, so I decided to marry you as a housekeeper. It was a good deal for you too, right? You could eat well and have a roof over your head without working. You seemed desperate to get married too. Maybe you felt pressured because your friends were getting married. Even though we weren't actually married, you were seen as the woman who married a doctor. This 10-year relationship was a win-win for both of us. That's all it was, and it ends today. You should be grateful for the good times you had. Now you have to live on your own without relying on others. I can't believe this. Oh, and one more thing. Don't tell my parents about this. If you do something unnecessary, you know what will happen to your father, right? My father runs a medical equipment sales company and has a contract with the hospital where Michael works. Our marriage was how this connection was made. Michael was threatening me, implying that if I told his parents he would sever the contract with my father's company. It's your fault for being deceived. How pitiful to be thrown out with nothing, he said, laughing. But the one who would be thrown out without knowing anything was actually him. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. What's so funny all of a sudden, he asked. I can't believe you became a doctor with that kind of knowledge, I said. What do you mean, he asked. I knew all along about your mistress and that you didn't submit our marriage registration. That's impossible. That's why I've been preparing, waiting for the day you'd bring it up yourself. I continued, I had a gut feeling about your infidelity for the past 6 months, but I lacked solid evidence to confront you. So I decided to hire a private investigator to look into your affair. The investigator told me, ma'am, there are 2 things I need to tell you. The first is that your husband is indeed having an affair. We got evidence of him entering a hotel with a nurse from his workplace. And the second is from their conversations. There's a possibility that you two are not legally married. Not legally married? What does that mean? I asked. I'd overheard your husband and his mistress at a cafe, the investigator continued. He said they didn't need to worry about alimony or property division since they never submitted a marriage registration. What? I can't believe it. We've been living as a married couple for 10 years. I don't know why he didn't submit the marriage registration. That's why he never let me handle any official procedures. Yeah, that seems to be the case. I can't believe this. How could this happen? It's unusual to hear about not submitting a marriage registration for 10 years, but it's not unheard of. This is too much. Am I just supposed to accept this? If we were never married from the start, there's nothing I can do. Not necessarily. What do you mean? Let's make him pay for deceiving you for 10 years. First, we need to prepare without him noticing, the investigator suggested. So I started preparing with the investigator to take action against my husband. So what if you knew we were never legally married from the start? Does that justify your actions with other women? Do you think you can avoid taking any responsibility? He said, trying to dismiss his actions. You called me pitiful for not knowing the truth, but it turns out you were the one who was pitiful. What do you mean? We're considered to be in a common law relationship on paper, so what? You might not know, but you can actually claim alimony and divide property in a common law relationship. What? He didn't know that not registering our marriage would come back to bite him. In a common law relationship, you can make claims. It's not widely known, but it's possible. Of course, there are conditions. From what I see in your case, it seems you meet those conditions. What are these conditions? The common law relationship is established based on 2 main criteria. First, both parties must have intended to marry. It's not just about living together, there must be a mutual intention to marry. This can be shown through things like having a wedding ceremony or being recognized as a couple by others. We did have a wedding ceremony, and our families and friends recognize us as a couple. So we meet the first criterion. The second criterion is living as if married. This includes sharing a household for more than 3 years. You've been living together as a couple for over 10 years. As a homemaker, you've obviously shared the household finances. This is recognized as a marital relationship. So that means if you can provide proof of what we discussed, you can claim alimony and divide property. I'm not an expert in this area, so I'll introduce you to a lawyer. You can work with them to bring him down. After consulting the lawyer I was referred to, I learned that I could indeed claim alimony and property division from my husband. I'm going to demand alimony and property division from you, I informed my husband, who turned pale. His confidence, which had been evident just a moment ago, was gone. But even if you can claim alimony and property division, you're just an unemployed woman. Do you plan to rely on your parents after being kicked out? He asked. Didn't I say I was preparing? I've already found a job starting next month. I've also found a new place to live. Don't worry about me. You thought I, a clueless homemaker, would be helpless, but the tables have turned. I'll make sure to discuss this with your parents, just so you know. Do you not care what happens to your father? If they want to break the contract, let them. Sure, you were the link to the hospital, but the contract continued because of my father and his company's efforts. Whether or not they keep the contract is up to them. Let's see if they'll break a contract just because the doctor's wife of 10 years was a lie. Try saying that. My father and I won't be affected if the contract is broken over this. It only shows the depth of their trust. We'll just find another hospital to partner with, I said firmly, taking out my phone. You're not calling your parents, are you? He asked nervously. That's exactly what I'm doing. Our parents think we're still married. It's only natural to inform them if this relationship is ending. To my surprise, my husband began to apologize. Please let me talk to them. Don't call. Why? You know how strict my parents are. If they find out about this, it's over. What does that have to do with me? Huh? You're asking me not to tell the truth because your parents are strict? Are you kidding? You could have refused to marry me from the start if you didn't intend to. After 10 years of a marriage based on lies, you're afraid of your parents finding out. I can't accept such a convenient story, but I can accept telling them the truth. I'll make sure both your parents and mine know everything." And so I called both sets of parents. All four were shocked upon hearing my story, and a meeting was promptly arranged at our house. "I've heard everything over the phone. Is it true that you pretended to be married for 10 years without submitting a marriage registration? Speak up, you foolish son," my father-in-law demanded. "It's true. I didn't submit it." "Why did you do that? Didn't you think about how Emily would feel?" "I didn't have a choice." "No choice? How can you say that? It's your fault, Mom and Dad. I didn't want to get married, but you started looking for a bride for me anyway, saying it was time. You arranged meetings and pressured me into marriage. But you agreed to it, didn't you?" "I had to agree. If I had refused, you would have caused a scene, so I decided to go through with it." "If you were willing to marry, why didn't you register the marriage?" "I read about a man online who was in the same situation. He didn't want to marry but had to because of his parents. He lived as if married without registering, then revealed the truth when he found someone he truly loved." "That's shocking. What happened to him in the end?" "Now he's married to the person he loves and has a real marriage, so I plan to marry my girlfriend too and have a real marriage." After hearing his explanation, my parents, who had been quiet until then, finally spoke up. "A real marriage, huh? Maybe you didn't marry for love, but remember what you promised at the wedding? We will always care for each other and create a happy home." What did those words mean to you? What did you show us back then? "We trusted you with our daughter's happiness, but for 10 years you deceived her by not registering the marriage. Did you create a happy home? And now you're leaving her for another woman. Can someone who acts without care, even if they change partners, truly have a real marriage?" "Well, we were glad you married our daughter, not just because you're a doctor. We thought she could build a happy life with someone as sincere as you. But it seems we were wrong and misled. And you threatened our daughter that if she told us, you'd end your business contract with us." "Really? If you're going to threaten our daughter, we'll end the contract ourselves. Be warned, we will speak the truth when asked. If you do that, there will be gossip at the hospital." "Gossip? Yes, maybe, but that's because of what you did. You were the one who threatened us with ending the contract." My husband panicked at this unexpected turn. "Please, let's talk about this calmly. Don't play games with us." My father-in-law grabbed my husband's collar, furious. "We didn't raise you to be a scoundrel. What were you thinking?" "Dad, please stop. By not registering the marriage, you may have thought you were protecting yourself, but because of your selfish actions, Emily was misled for 10 years. What were you thinking, causing so much trouble to others?" The room fell silent. Faced with my father-in-law's words, my husband had nothing more to say. "Emily and her parents, I'm really sorry for the trouble caused by this idiot." "No, your parents shouldn't apologize. It's not their fault. But as parents, we partly bear responsibility for letting him behave this way. We'll take him home now and ensure he stops his reckless actions. We'll handle the aftermath properly. We're deeply sorry for all of this." With that, my husband was taken away by his parents to their home. "You've been through so much. You should come back home for now and rest. We'll figure out the next steps later. Don't worry about anything right now," my parents said kindly. "Thank you, but I'm not going back home just yet. There are things I need to take care of." I declined and chose to stay in my own home. What I needed to do was prepare for the final settlement with my now ex-husband, gathering evidence for our common-law relationship. I was preparing to claim alimony and divide our assets. A few weeks later, I arranged a meeting with a lawyer. "Even if I agree to alimony, why should I divide my property? She's been a homemaker for 10 years, never worked a day. I paid for everything: furniture, clothes, food. Now you're saying I have to give away the money I worked hard for?" He protested, unwilling to accept sharing his earnings with me. "Yes, that's correct. Your earnings and the belongings acquired during our relationship are subject to division." "Why does it have to be like this? Who took care of the house and cooked meals while you were at work? Who managed everything at home?" "That doesn't matter now." "No, it does matter. A homemaker deserves a share of the assets because running a household and raising children have real economic value. Speaking not just as a lawyer but as a person, do you think housework is something anyone can do, something that's just expected of a homemaker? The reason you could focus on your career was because of her support. Don't overlook that." "What? This situation is a consequence of your actions, yet you're upset about fairness." "What did you say? Never mind. Anyway, she's entitled to half of our assets through property division. That's how it works." "Damn. As for alimony, we're seeking $100,000 from you." $100,000? Why so much for a relationship that wasn't even legally married? It's precisely because it wasn't a legal marriage. Typically, alimony in common law relationships ranges from $10,000 to $40,000. However, in your case, you pretended to be married for 10 years and then tried to discard her when you found someone else. The amount is based on the seriousness and duration of your actions. But still, you might think 10 years is short, but it's longer than you realize. During that time, she committed herself to you, believing you were married. You have no right to complain after betraying her. It was a powerful response. He had no rebuttal and reluctantly agreed to my terms. Later, I also sent a notice of claim for alimony to his mistress. With the help of an investigator, I knew who she was and where she worked, a nurse at the same hospital where he did. Wait, this isn't what you told me. What's going on? I told you not to approach me at work. I received this from your wife. You said there wouldn't be any alimony because we weren't legally married. What's going on? Later, I found out that in a panic after receiving the alimony claim from me, she confronted him at the hospital with the notice. All right, let's talk about this later, not here. There are too many people around. We'll both be in trouble if this gets out. I don't care about that. I can't afford this kind of alimony. You said it would be fine, so you should pay it. What? I'm not paying anything. You wanted this relationship. You said I was the one for you, that you wanted to marry me. Hey, keep it down. Everyone can hear us. Just so you know, I'm not the one at fault here. If you want to settle things with your wife, handle it yourself. Tell her I don't know her anything, and that you'll sort everything out. Wait. This conversation ended up exposing their affair to the entire hospital, quickly becoming the talk of the place. Then came the final blow when my father requested to terminate our contract with the hospital. I apologize, but we'd like to end our contract by the end of next month. Aware of the rumors, the hospital inquired, "Forgive me for asking, but is the reason for canceling related to Dr. Michael's affair? It's become quite a topic here." Yes, a nurse believed to be involved caused quite a scene. I never imagined he had pretended to be married for 10 years without actually registering. You mean he never filed the marriage registration? Did you know he hadn't done that? All I knew was that he was married and had an affair. What do you mean he didn't file the marriage registration? After my father's request, it came to light that he had deceived me for 10 years by not filing the marriage registration. This news spread among the other nurses. Dr. Michael deceived his wife for 10 years by not filing the marriage registration and had an affair with a nurse. How awful. How could he do that? Could someone really go unnoticed for 10 years? It seems Emily's maiden name was the same, and he handled all the official paperwork. That's concerning. The rumors spread not only among hospital staff but also reached patients, leading both Michael and his mistress to face cold stares. Unable to bear it, they both resigned from the hospital soon after. As my father asked me, "Did you manage to get the alimony?" Yes, I received payments from both him and his mistress. She resisted paying until the end, claiming she was also deceived, but the lawyer explained her argument wouldn't hold, and she reluctantly agreed to pay. That's good. What about you, Dad? Did the contract end up getting canceled? No, that's not happening anymore. He resigned, and because our company is trusted, the hospital asked us to keep the contract. We couldn't cancel it after they asked like that. That's a relief. Afterwards, I started a new life in a new place and found happiness. About a year and a half later, my ex-husband reached out to me. "Is it true you got remarried?" I had married a man I met through work, and somehow he had found out. "I wonder whose number this is. You went through the trouble of changing your number just to contact me. Just answer my question." "Yes, I got married." "You betrayed me." "Betrayal? We were never legally married, so I didn't think it would matter to you, right?" "That's beside the point." "Exactly, things are different now. We're completely separated, so my marriage has nothing to do with you. Is that why you contacted me?" After I said this, he seemed speechless for a moment, then he scoffed. "Of course you're still unmarried, probably because you haven't bothered to file any paperwork. That's just like you." But he was mistaken. "Actually, my husband isn't like you at all. He knows everything about your situation, so to ease any concerns I had, we went together to handle the paperwork. Unfortunately for you, things didn't turn out as you assumed. I can understand why you might wish for my unhappiness, given your own misery, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. We're happily married." I told him this and hung up the phone. I don't know what kind of life he leads now, but unless he changes his selfish ways, he's unlikely to find happiness. Hello, my name is Mary. Right now, I'm working with my husband Samuel at his family's business called The Enterprise. It's a small, cozy company run by Samuel's dad, Liam. There are about 6 of us working there. Liam isn't very involved in day-to-day activities. Samuel takes the lead and might become the next boss. He works closely with clients and pushes new projects to help the company grow. When we have big projects, everyone pitches in, making the atmosphere energetic and passionate. I've been part of this lively place for 8 years now since I married into the family. But Samuel's mom, Amanda, seems unsure about my role here. Recently, when I got home early to cook dinner and Samuel stayed late at the office, Amanda confronted me with some tough words. She asked me, "How long do you plan to stick around in our family's business?" Her tone sounded critical and disapproving. Since Amanda retired, she started criticizing my decisions instead of enjoying her free time. I tried to stay calm and asked her, "What do you mean by clinging?" She replied sharply, suggesting I married Samuel out of necessity and now took advantage of working at their company. This wasn't the first time she accused me like this, it was happening more often. When I got married, I chose to leave my old job and join Samuel's family business. It was my decision, not because I had no other options, as Amanda seemed to think. Trying to explain, I told her, "Mom, I could work somewhere else if I wanted. I chose to be here." But she brushed it off, convinced she understood my motives. The tension with my mother-in-law went beyond words. Despite promising to take over household duties after retiring, she rarely helped, leaving Liam to often ask for her assistance with chores. Instead, she insisted, "I've worked my whole life. Now it's the daughter-in-law's turn to handle things at home." So I often ended up managing dinner and cleaning up afterward. One afternoon, I gathered my courage to address a household issue that was bothering me. "Amanda," I started cautiously, "I've noticed dishes often pile up in the sink. It would be helpful if you could clean up after your meals." Instead of understanding, she reacted strongly. She accused me of crossing boundaries and questioned my right as her daughter-in-law to set rules in her home. Feeling drained by our argument, I knew time was slipping away. If I didn't start dinner soon, we'd eat very late. Despite my frustration, I stayed calm. "Mom, let's talk more later," I suggested, hoping to ease the tension for now and focus on cooking. Amanda seemed to calm down and left for the living room, leaving me alone with the noise of kitchen utensils. Liam and Samuel had seen Amanda treat me this way before. They tried to step in when they could, but it didn't seem to change much. When they addressed the issue, they looked concerned and frustrated, wanting our family to get along better. Ironically, whenever Liam and Samuel confronted Amanda about her behavior, it often made her angrier at me, making her hostility worse. Her usual calm and gentle manner would turn into contempt, and her words hurt deeply, even though she never physically harmed me. Liam and Samuel's support became my sanctuary, helping me endure Amanda's hurtful comments. One tough morning, after I cleaned up from breakfast and was getting ready for work, Amanda suddenly exclaimed, "Oh dear, what a mess. It looks like a garbage dump here." Out of nowhere, she poured a bucket of water on my handbag. I stood there in shock, feeling a mix of disbelief and anger. "Why would you do that, Amanda?" I managed to ask, my voice shaking. Amanda's reply was dismissive, almost playful, like a mischievous child. "Oh, was that your stuff? I thought it was just a big piece of trash." Her casual attitude made me even more furious. "Even if you thought it was trash, who pours water on something?" I argued, struggling to grasp her lack of consideration. In the morning light, sitting across from Amanda in our living room, her expression was cold and determined, as if she had decided on a drastic action. "What on earth are you thinking? Now the carpet's soaked, and what about my things?" I blurted out, feeling a mix of confusion and frustration as I hurriedly took out the wet items from my bag. Important work documents lay spread out on the table, drying off. Amanda looked at me with a chilling calmness, showing no remorse or concern for the chaos she had caused. "You don't need to go to work anymore," she said flatly. I was completely stunned by her statement. "Excuse me?" I replied, filled with disbelief and shock. Amanda's next words hit me hard. "You've been hanging around this house for 8 years, but today I can finally get rid of you." Her voice dripped with venom and determination, a side of her I'd never seen before. My mind raced with sadness. "Get rid of me," I repeated, my voice betraying my disbelief. "She made me feel like an outsider in my own family. My daughter is joining the company, so we need you to leave. Today's your last day. All you have to do is apologize to your father-in-law and Samuel for causing trouble." She laughed mockingly, adding insult to injury. She was using my job to push me out. I had invested years into that job, earning respect and making cherished memories. Shocked and heartbroken, I struggled to understand the harshness of her decision. I had devoted myself to this family, yet it seemed my efforts meant nothing to her. "Are you sure about this? Wasn't Emma working at a clothing store in Philadelphia?" I asked, my voice showing my confusion and concern. My job meant more to me than just a paycheck. It was my path to personal fulfillment. Meanwhile, Emma, my sister-in-law, tired of city life and its impersonal nature, decided to come back. She said she was fed up with the cold people in Philadelphia, so I told her I had a job waiting for her once she returned home. Amanda explained firmly, leaving little room for discussion. Amanda's words hit me hard. She's agreed to come back immediately, and now that she has, I want you out of this house. Her statement was shocking, almost impossible to accept. With one decision, she was ready to completely upend my life, disregarding my place in the family without any chance for dialogue. Coldly, she handed me an envelope. "I've written your resignation letter," she announced, effectively casting me out of our home. In that moment, my heart broke. Years of dedication and closeness were brushed aside like they meant nothing. Her actions ripped apart the bonds that held our family together, leaving them irreparably damaged. With a heavy heart, I walked the short 5 minutes to the company, a route I knew well, but today it felt heavy with emotions. Each step under the cool morning sky carried the weight of the situation unfolding. When I entered the office, I shared with Liam, my father-in-law, and Samuel, my husband. I told them about Amanda's harsh ultimatum. They looked shocked and held back their anger, staying composed despite the turmoil. They cautiously suggested it might be best for me to step back for a while to show Amanda the impact of her demands. This suggestion threw my heart into even more confusion. After years of working hard at our family business, the idea of taking a break longer than the usual holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas seemed strange and overwhelming. Encouraged by Samuel and Liam's supportive words, "Why not take a step forward and try something new?" I decided to take a short trip. As I packed, my mind raced with thoughts about my life, the decisions I had made, and what lay ahead in the future. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law Emma, who was supposed to take over my role at the company, arrived shockingly late at 2 p.m. Her casual attitude left Samuel and Liam bewildered and frustrated. Despite their attempts to help her understand the business, Emma showed little interest in learning its intricacies. Upon hearing this news, anxiety gripped me about the future of the company. Even as I looked forward to my journey and hoped to avoid another encounter with Amanda, I quickly set off. Watching the landscape change from the train window, I took the opportunity to reflect on my past and present. The journey provided not just physical distance but a chance to breathe and think about what lay ahead for me. As I enjoyed local seafood specialties during my travels, my thoughts frequently turned to my family and our business. I was deep in these reflections on the 5th day of my retreat when my peace was suddenly shattered by a tearful call from Emma. "What's happening?" Mom said it was an easy job, just sitting in a chair, but Samuel and Dad act like I can't do anything right. Emma lamented, clearly frustrated. Her words sounded like they echoed the assurances my mother-in-law had given her, which caught me off guard. Despite the relaxed pace of my days away, I knew it was time to face the reality of the situation. "So Emma, how comfortable are you with computers?" I asked, sensing her hesitation. "Well, I mostly watch videos and play games online," she replied, hinting at her limited technical skills. Curious about her abilities, I asked about her experience with software like Word or Excel. Her confused response surprised me, given her background in the apparel industry in Philadelphia, where tasks like tracking sales and managing inventory would typically require basic computer knowledge. "Can you handle sales calculations or fill out documents?" I questioned further. She confidently said she could manage those tasks, but when I asked, "Can you calculate the correct amount of tax?" her confidence wavered, and she answered uncertainly. This wasn't just about testing Emma's math skills, but about seeing if she could apply them practically in a business context. While Emma had talents in other areas, it was evident she lacked confidence in the specific skills needed for the job. Her discomfort with calculations seemed to be a significant factor in the criticism from Liam and Samuel. It was essential for me to address the motives behind my mother-in-law's efforts to replace me. "Since you're taking over my role, I expect you to handle accounting tasks proficiently. Pay attention to email etiquette. A casual tone suitable for friends isn't appropriate for business. You'll also need to manage staff scheduling. Our team is small, but we prioritize everyone's time off requests, so don't put your convenience over theirs," I told her firmly. As I continued outlining her responsibilities, I could hear Emma crying on the other end of the line. It was a difficult conversation, but necessary for her to understand the reality and expectations of the role she was taking on. But I thought I wouldn't have much to do. Emma abruptly ended the call, clearly overwhelmed by the tasks ahead. I took the chance to explore Philadelphia, the city Emma had left behind. Surprisingly, I found the people there warmer than I expected, a stark contrast to the cold behavior of my mother-in-law Amanda and Emma, who seemed determined to push me away. A week after leaving my job, I returned to my in-laws' house. As soon as I arrived, Amanda confronted me, her face red with anger. "How dare you make my daughter cry? You won't get away with this," she yelled, her eyes filled with fury and confusion. Before she could reach me, Samuel and Liam stepped in to calm her down. Despite their efforts, Amanda's anger didn't subside. Emma's upset because she got in trouble for trying to boss around her employees without knowing how. Samuel explained calmly but firmly, trying to clear up the misunderstanding. "Mary hasn't been here for a week, so she couldn't have upset Emma." Emotionally, Amanda shot back, "It's all because of her. Mary is the reason for Emma's problems. She accused me without any evidence. Where's Emma anyway? I asked, looking around, but she wasn't there, adding to the confusion. It's strange. Emma doesn't have anywhere else to go since she gave up her apartment in Philadelphia. I thought she'd be here, I mused aloud. Samuel then explained. Emma's locked herself in her room. She's been crying and doesn't want to go to work anymore. She's overwhelmed, mainly because she doesn't have the skills needed for the job. Amanda, still angry, accused me. You've turned Samuel and Liam against me. They wouldn't say the company runs better with you instead of Emma unless you poisoned them against her. Samuel sighed deeply, clearly exhausted from the ongoing family conflict and his efforts to clear up misunderstandings. Mom, he tried to explain again, it might seem surprising, but Mary is exceptional at her job. She's certified in bookkeeping, her administrative skills are top-notch, and she's even fluent in Spanish from studying abroad. She handles all our multilingual communications of the company, he said proudly. Amanda looked surprised, evidently unaware of my qualifications and contributions. That sounds like something from a TV show, she muttered, reflecting on the situation. I remember in college I was so focused on getting certifications and studying that I had little time for socializing or dating. That's when I met Samuel when he visited my company for business, I shared, trying to bridge the gap between misunderstandings and the reality of our lives. Realizing Amanda wasn't interested in my qualifications or past achievements, I refocused the conversation on the present situation. To sum up, I handle a wide range of tasks at the company, from accounting and scheduling to coordinating with other companies and managing employee shifts, I explained, detailing the breadth of my responsibilities. Samuel chimed in. The work environment has improved significantly since you took a step back, Mom. His remark visibly surprised Amanda. Just then, Liam, Samuel's father, interjected with a startling revelation. We're considering closing down the company soon. Emma made a serious error. Instead of completing some crucial documents, she opted to take phone calls because she thought it would be more enjoyable while we were away. She ended up being rude to an important contact from another company, which could have serious consequences. I was shocked, my hand covering my mouth in disbelief. I can't believe Emma would do something like that, I murmured, filled with a sense of disbelief and dread over the potential implications for the company's future. As I pondered over these anxious thoughts, the story took another unexpected twist. When I explained our situation, the president of the other company suggested it might be time to consider merging. He expressed interest in absorbing our family business. Liam continued, revealing the surprising turn of events. This unexpected development brought a glimmer of hope. A merger could stabilize our customer base, a goal Samuel had been tirelessly working towards through his efforts in sales. Samuel and Liam felt relieved by the news, but Amanda had a different reaction. She immediately objected. That's not acceptable. Samuel should be the president. This company belongs to us, doesn't it? He shouldn't just become an employee. Amanda exclaimed passionately, unwilling to entertain the idea of losing the status and control that came with owning the company. Her outburst drew Emma downstairs to see what was happening. Amid the chaos, Liam's calm but firm voice cut through the tension. I am divorcing you. You have resisted change, neglected your duties at home and to the family, and I've learned about your involvement with younger men. I can no longer tolerate this behavior, he declared, shocking everyone present, including Samuel and me. Liam then placed divorce papers and a photo of Amanda with a young man on the table. If you sign these papers now and take your belongings, I won't pursue alimony. Trying to get money from you would be futile, he stated firmly. How can you say that? Haven't I dedicated myself to this household all these years? Amanda protested. Liam countered, have you actually done any real housework in the last 8 years? Spending someone else's money on younger men doesn't count as dedication to this house, his frustration evident in his voice. It was an unprecedented display of firmness from Liam, typically known for his gentle demeanor, as he addressed long-standing family issues. The atmosphere was charged with tension and disbelief as Liam, usually composed and reserved, showed a side of himself that shocked everyone present, especially Emma, who had just entered the room. Her slight trembling betrayed her astonishment and fear at the unfolding scene. Emma, this concerns you too, Liam declared firmly. You returned because you couldn't make it on your own in Philadelphia. Now you're struggling to find a job here, yet you act as if you're above everyone else. You've stopped making an effort altogether, resorting to escapism. It's time for you to leave this house as well. Emma was stunned, her face showing a mix of confusion and denial. Wait, Dad, maybe Mom has her issues, but I'm still your daughter, right? She protested desperately, trying to maintain her place in the family. Amanda, hurt by her daughter's words, reacted with shock. Are you turning against me now, Emma? She accused, her voice filled with hurt and disbelief as tensions escalated. Liam intervened swiftly to prevent further conflict. To avoid more trouble, I've arranged for both of you to stay with an acquaintance until you get back on your feet. They'll be here shortly to pick you up. Please gather your essential belongings, he instructed firmly, his tone brooking no argument. With heavy hearts and no other options, Amanda and Emma packed their belongings. Shortly after, an acquaintance of Liam's, who managed a factory with living arrangements, arrived to take them to their new temporary home. Meanwhile, Samuel, Liam, and I seized the opportunity to inform our employees about the upcoming merger of our company with a larger corporation, preparing them for the changes and challenges ahead. Amidst these significant life changes, I discovered that I was pregnant. I shared the joyful news with the president of the acquiring company, who responded with enthusiasm. He assured me they would find a suitable replacement for my role to ensure a smooth transition. With the promise of new beginnings and the excitement of our growing family, Samuel and Liam redoubled their dedication to the company, inspired by the bright future ahead. Hello everyone, my name is Taylor. I am a single mother who faced many challenges to raise my son, Eric. Many single mothers have supportive families. I thought I did too, but I was wrong and found out in the worst way. Thankfully, I managed to protect myself and my son from the people who tried to ruin our lives. My ex-husband Carl is an abusive person. Just thinking about him makes me feel sick. There was a time when I was deeply in love with him. But things got bad after we got married. Carl was a wonderful boyfriend, but as a husband, he was a nightmare. He was controlling and gradually became abusive. I stayed in the marriage for over 8 years because he manipulated me and trapped me with a baby. I believed my son deserved a father, so I didn't leave. However, things got much worse when Eric was 5. One day, Carl started to hit me very hard. My poor son saw this and tried to stop his dad. Carl was so angry that he pushed Eric to the floor. That was the breaking point for me. I called Child Protective Services, CPS, and the police, which was enough to keep Carl away from us. However, he was determined to get back at me. He said, "You think you can run away from me, Taylor? That will never happen. Sooner or later, I will have you and my son back in my house. You just wait and see. We are getting a divorce, Carl. There is no way I will allow you near me or my son again. Even if we divorce, I'll find a way to take Eric. I am his dad, and I have rights. He will be in my home, and so will you. Mark my words." Carl's behavior and violent history made me very paranoid. My son was extremely traumatized and had to go to therapy to deal with his issues. After a long court battle, Carl and I were finally divorced. I didn't stop there. I moved near my parents and sister to stay safe from Carl. I even got restraining orders against him. It was the most horrific time of my life. Carl never knew where I had moved. He might have guessed, but he didn't have my exact address. Being near my parents and sister made me feel safe. However, my parents were not very supportive of my divorce. They said, "Was it really necessary to get a divorce? You two could have attended therapy and talked it out. It's not a big deal. Poor little Eric had to lose his dad over your problems. That's so unfair. He must be devastated not being able to see his dad." "Are you serious right now? Carl used to beat me up, Mom, and he even hit Eric when my son tried to protect me. How can you not see what a monster Carl is? Mom, Dad, you need to be more understanding of Taylor. She has been through a lot. You have no right to make her feel guilty. She did the right thing," my sister said. At first, Mom and Dad would talk to me about letting Eric see his dad, but I never allowed it. My parents were never happy with my decision. They'd always said, "Why don't you let Carl visit Eric? He must miss his son." How would you feel if I wasn't around when you were growing up? I know I would have been devastated. Taylor, you grew up in a home with 2 parents. You can't be so selfish with Eric. He deserves the love of his father. Soon he will start resenting you for not allowing his father to be in his life. What are you even talking about? Eric is terrified of his dad. He begs me never to let Carl near us again. Neither of us wants anything to do with him. You may be letting Carl's bad actions color your view. You shouldn't have involved Eric in your problems. He's scared of Carl because you've made him that way. That's unfair, Dad. If Carl was a good man and a loving father, he wouldn't have hurt me in front of Eric, or at all. No matter how hard I tried, they never agreed with my decision. Over time, though, they seemed to accept it. They became close to Eric and did a great job as grandparents. Eric also formed strong bonds with them and his aunt, Blair. I think part of the reason my parents stopped pressuring me was because Blair and I were financially supporting them. Dad doesn't have a good job and Mom doesn't work, so we sent them monthly allowances. Money might have been why they eventually stopped bringing up the matter. Eric and I were doing well in our new home. He started school locally, and I had a good job in an office. Things were going smoothly, and I was happy being close to family. However, I didn't expect my loved ones to betray me. About a year after leaving Carl, I was preparing for a business trip to another city. I couldn't bring Eric along because there were no childcare arrangements at work. I was stuck, wondering what to do with Eric. That's when my mom and dad suggested a plan. They said, "We heard you'll be going on a business trip soon. Stuart and I have been thinking about babysitting Eric for you. We can stay at your house and take care of both Eric and the house." "Are you sure about this? Eric can be quite a handful. Plus, leaving your apartment empty might be risky, don't you think?" "It's just for a few days, so I don't think it'll be a problem. Besides, we love Eric and he loves us. I'm sure he'll enjoy spending time with us." "Yeah, we'll stay here and take care of everything. Your house will be safe while you're away. It's like getting two benefits at once." "Okay, since you're so insistent, I'll leave Eric and my house with you." I agreed to let them babysit Eric and stay at my house until I returned. I felt satisfied with the plan because I trusted my parents completely. Now I know I made a huge mistake. I shouldn't have trusted them at all. My business trip was just a week later. I flew out that night after saying goodnight to Eric. I had to leave a day early to prepare for a big client meeting the next morning. I called my parents and Eric from the hotel after I arrived. Everything seemed fine. Little did I know what was about to happen. At night, while I was in my hotel room preparing for my meeting the next day, Blair called me. Her call made me anxious. I immediately thought something might be wrong at home. I answered nervously. "Hey Taylor, have you already left for your business trip?" Blair asked. "Yes, I flew out yesterday. It's a short trip." "Have you left Eric with Mom and Dad?" I replied. "Yes. Is everything okay?" "They're staying at your house with Eric. They're taking good care of him, and he loves being with them," Blair said. "Taylor, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you made a mistake leaving Eric with them. I don't think they have good intentions. Something doesn't feel right," Blair continued hesitantly. "What do you mean? Tell me what's going on. You're scaring me, Blair," I urged, feeling a knot in my stomach. "I think Mom and Dad might try to take Eric to see Carl. They've been against your decisions about the restraining orders and your divorce. I have a bad feeling they might try to reunite Eric with him," Blair explained. "What? No, they can't do that. There must be some misunderstanding. They didn't approve of my divorce, but they wouldn't side with someone who abused me," I protested in disbelief. "I understand you trust them, but please stay cautious. If you need anything, I'm here for you. Remember that," Blair urged. "Thanks, Blair. I'll keep that in mind." "Don't worry," I replied. Blair's words lingered in my mind, unsettling me deeply. I couldn't shake off the unease, so I decided to call my parents and check in with them. I said, "Hey, Mom, can you pass the phone to Eric? I miss him a lot and want to talk." "Sure, Taylor. Just a moment," Mom replied. "Mom, are you there?" "Hi, Eric. I just wanted to check in. Is everything okay? Are you having fun?" I asked. "Mom, I need to tell you something. Grandma and Grandpa have called Dad." "Oh no, my phone's about to die. I'm so sorry, Taylor. I have to charge it now. Why don't you call back later? Eric's fine and playing with us. Don't worry about a thing. Take care. Bye." Something about Eric's attempt to speak and how Mom quickly ended the call made me suspicious. My mind raced, so I decided to review the security camera footage. I didn't have cameras inside, but I did outside. To my shock, there was my ex-husband's car in the driveway. I watched the footage and saw my mom opening the door for him. After watching the footage, I was furious and scared for Eric's safety and my own. Carl wasn't supposed to know where we lived. I had a restraining order against him. He should never have been near my son. I immediately called my parents in anger, recording the call. "Mom, why is Carl at my house? What's going on? Who gave you permission to let him in?" "Taylor, you need to calm down. Carl isn't here. Why would you think that?" My mom replied defensively. "Mom, I can see his car parked in my driveway. Did you forget I have security cameras outside? I saw you open the door for him," I insisted. There was a long silence on their end. Neither of them said a word. I could sense I had caught them off guard, but what happened next shocked me even more. "Look, I understand you're upset with Carl and us, but you're being unreasonable. You need to give us some understanding. I'm very disappointed in you, Taylor. You can't keep a son away from his father. Eric needs Carl in his life. You're not being a good mother. Please tell me you're joking. Carl physically abused me. He even hurt Eric when he tried to protect me. How can you allow Carl back into his life? I have a restraining order against him, for God's sake." "That was in the past, Taylor. People can change. Your restraining order was causing issues. So yes, your mom and I decided to step in. We gave Carl your address since you wouldn't. We've reunited father and son. They're happy together. Mom, Dad, you have 5 minutes to get Carl out of there. If you don't, there will be consequences. Don't threaten us, Taylor. We're your parents. You're 3,000 miles away. Carl will stay here as long as he wants. We're planning a picnic tomorrow. I'm hanging up now before you say anything else," Mom retorted before ending the call. I literally gave you 5 minutes to get Carl out. When that time passed and his car was still in the driveway, I had enough. I felt scared and betrayed. I knew I had to act fast, so I called law enforcement. I explained everything and told them to arrest Carl. I also instructed them to take Eric from my parents and give him to Blair. The police arrived quickly, thanks to living near a station. I watched through CCTV as they confronted my parents and Carl. Mom and Dad looked panicked as the police moved in to arrest Carl. Mom called me, furious. "Taylor, what's wrong with you? Did you call the cops on us? How could you do this? Carl could go to jail." "He will go to jail, Mom, and so will you if you don't leave my house right now. I don't want you and Dad on my property again. I've called Blair, she's coming to take Eric. You'll never come near us again." "How dare you, Taylor? You're a horrible woman. I wish you were never born. You can't kick us out and take our grandchild from us. We won't let that happen." "Good luck with that, Mom and Dad. The police will stop you if you try anything. They know Eric is going with Blair. You can't do this. We have grandparent rights. We'll sue you. Good luck trying to fight me in court. It'll be interesting to see the judge's reaction when she learns you allowed an abusive man into my home despite a restraining order. You won't stand a chance." Before my parents could respond, the police emerged with handcuffs. Carl was led to a waiting police car and placed in the back seat. Seeing him taken away brought me a sense of relief and satisfaction. The police then turned their attention to my parents, who were flustered, and my dad began shouting at them, likely arguing about Eric. At that moment, my sister Blair arrived. She showed her ID to the police and took Eric with her. My parents tried to intervene, but the police intervened and prevented them from causing any trouble. The officers stayed until my parents gathered their belongings and left. Blair locked up the house and took the keys from them. My parents tried calling me to scream about the situation, but I didn't pick up. They started sending me strange and threatening texts, which I recorded because they were alarming. Here's what they said. "What you did today wasn't right, Taylor. There will be consequences. You had no right to take Eric away from us and Carl. I can't believe you're my daughter. I hate you. You won't keep us away, Taylor. You work. You can't be with Eric all the time. We'll get visitation rights from court, then take Eric from you. One call to CPS from us and Eric could be taken away. We're smarter than you. We'll call CPS with bad stuff. They'll place Eric with us, and he'll never return to you." "That won't happen. Eric stays with me, and I'll protect him with everything I have. We know Eric's school and your address. We'll find a way to be with him. You can't stop us." "Yeah, if you act crazy, we'll take him away from you. You'll never see him again." My parents are not only horrible but also foolish. It's clear to me now that they still expect everything to go their way. They have no idea what I have planned. Time will reveal everything to them. Carl made a big mistake by teaming up with them. He'll face consequences too. I wrapped up my work as quickly as possible and rushed home. Blair had kept Eric safe at her house. Eric was visibly relieved to see me. "Mom, you came back. I was afraid you wouldn't," Eric said anxiously. "Eric, what are you talking about? I went on a business trip." "Of course, I was coming back," I reassured him. "Dad said you left me, Mom. He showed me pictures of his house and said he'd take me with him. I was scared. I didn't want to go," Eric explained, clearly distressed. "Eric, listen to me. I will never let Carl take you or even come near you again. I'm staying right here with you, I promise," I assured him firmly. I spent a long time comforting Eric and ensuring he felt safe. It was upsetting to hear that Carl had been filling his head with lies about me abandoning him and trying to take him away. I was furious with Carl. CPS got involved and listened to Eric's account. They recommended therapy, and Eric is already attending sessions. I've also enrolled both of us in group therapy to help us heal from our experiences. Our therapist has been wonderful and supportive throughout. My lawyer used all the evidence of Carl's crimes in court. He's facing charges for attempted kidnapping and violating the restraining order, which could lead to jail time. Right now, I'm working on legally severing Carl's parental rights to Eric. My son deserves a good father, not an abuser like Carl. My lawyer is competent, and we're hopeful for a successful outcome. Eric, listen to me. I won't let Carl come near you ever again. I promise I'm staying right here with you, I reassured him. I spent a long time comforting Eric and making sure he felt okay. Carl had been saying hurtful things to Eric, like I abandoned him and Carl was going to take him away. I was really angry at Carl for spreading lies. Child Protective Services, CPS, got involved and listened to Eric's side of the story. They suggested therapy for him, and he's already attending sessions. I've also joined group therapy with Eric to help us both heal from what happened. Our therapist is really supportive and helps us work through our feelings. All the evidence of Carl's crimes was used by my lawyer in court. He's facing charges for trying to kidnap Eric and violating a restraining order, and he might go to jail. Right now, I'm working on making sure Carl loses his rights to be Eric's father. My son deserves a good dad, not someone who hurts him like Carl. My lawyer is very good, and we're hoping the legal process goes smoothly. My parents tried to sue me for grandparent rights, but the judge quickly dismissed their case when they saw my evidence and the texts my parents sent. I took further steps and got restraining orders against them, which the judge approved right away. I've moved with Eric to a different state because I got promoted at work to a higher position in a new city. It helped me get away from my parents. Blair visits us sometimes, and she's also cut off contact with our parents and might move closer to me soon. My parents are struggling financially now that Blair and I have stopped helping them out. They had to find extra jobs, and lawyer fees drained their savings, making them unstable. Meanwhile, Eric and I are doing really well in our new environment. I have no plans to reconnect with my parents or let Carl hurt my son again. My name's Audrey, and today I turned 30 years old. I want to tell you all about how I became a millionaire because of two very greedy people. They say what goes around comes around. I first met my husband Gavin on a work trip our office organized. We both led different departments and had never crossed paths before. The trip had lots of activities like games and sports. During a volleyball game, I got hurt and sprained my ankle. Gavin was quick to help me, carrying me to get first aid. I thought he was really kind and wanted to get to know him better. After the trip, I reached out to him and asked if he wanted to go for coffee. He said yes, and we met up at a local cafe. During our date, we talked about the trip, our interests, and our families. I realized we had a lot in common. We liked the same sports, TV shows, and hobbies. Gavin told me about his family, especially his strong bond with his mother, Meg. He mentioned, "I've always been really close to my mom. We make sure to visit each other at least twice a week." "That's nice that you're close to your mom. What about your dad?" I asked. Gavin responded, "He actually left us a few years ago, and we don't really keep in touch." "I'm sorry to hear that. Is everything okay between you two?" "It's complicated, Audrey. Let's just say things didn't work out." "What do you mean by didn't work out? He's your dad, not your boyfriend." "Yeah, it's just, he wasn't very supportive, so my mom and I decided to part ways." "Was it because of financial reasons or emotional ones?" "You know what? Let's talk about something else," Gavin interrupted. "Oh, sure, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry. I just want to get to know you better. We can change the subject," I replied. I didn't dwell on it and figured it was a sensitive topic for Gavin. I believed that as we grew closer, he would open up more about his past. In the following weeks, we continued to meet, sometimes even during work. I started having lunch with him every day. Over a few months, we became very close, and our relationship started becoming serious. I knew Gavin's birthday was approaching, so I decided to plan a surprise party for him. I asked our friends to help with organizing and creating the guest list. Since Gavin was close to his mom, Meg, I thought it would be nice to invite her too. I debated inviting his dad, considering their relationship was unclear to me, and ultimately decided against it. The day of the party arrived, and after setting up decorations and preparing food, guests started arriving, eagerly awaiting Gavin's entrance. Just before Gavin was due to arrive, I noticed a well-dressed middle-aged woman heading towards the door. She wore a fancy green evening gown and carried a designer handbag. I approached her and introduced myself. "Hello, I'm Audrey. You must be one of Gavin's close relatives. It's nice to meet you. How do you know Gavin?" Finally, someone with manners. "I'm Meg, Gavin's mother, and yes, I'm the most important guest here. He's my son, you know." "Of course, Meg. I didn't mean to offend. Gavin speaks so highly of you. Please come in and make yourself comfortable." "Well, I should hope so. I practically raised him all by myself. I hope you've done a decent job planning this party." "I've put in a lot of effort, and our friends have been a great help too. I hope you enjoy it," I replied calmly. "We'll see about that. Just make sure you don't interfere with my time with Gavin. He's my son, after all," Meg retorted sharply. "Of course, Meg. I wouldn't want to come between you two. Gavin values his relationship with you, and I completely understand that," I reassured her. Despite my efforts to appease her, Meg didn't seem impressed. She started loudly criticizing the decorations and began insulting some of the other guests at the party. Despite Meg's behavior, I remained composed and continued to show her hospitality, hoping she would eventually approve of me. When I heard Gavin's car approaching, I went outside to greet him. The surprise party went smoothly, and Gavin was genuinely happy with the effort I had put in. We enjoyed cutting the cake and exchanging gifts. During the party, Meg insisted on being next to Gavin in all the photos, even those with just Gavin and me. She also boasted that her gift was the best and confidently predicted Gavin would love it. I was surprised when Gavin didn't intervene or stop Meg's behavior. Instead, he accommodated all her requests and ensured she was always by his side. When it was time for dinner, everyone took their seats at the dining table. Gavin stood up, thanking everyone for coming to his birthday celebration. He mentioned he had an important announcement and was glad everyone was there. Suddenly, Gavin knelt down and pulled out a ring, asking me to marry him. I was thrilled and tearfully accepted amid cheers and congratulations. However, I noticed Meg had quietly left the table. Confused, I brought it up to Gavin. "Babe, your mom left the table. Is everything all right? We should find her and get her blessings. She'll be upset if we don't." "But why do we need her blessings? It's our decision, isn't it?" "You don't understand. I'd always discuss important decisions with my mom. We're really close and I value her opinion." "I understand she's important to you, but shouldn't we make decisions together?" I gently questioned. "Of course we do, but I can't just ignore her. She means a lot to me. Can we please find her and talk to her about giving us her blessings right away?" Gavin insisted. I was worried about how dependent Gavin seemed on his mother's approval, but I loved him and wanted her acceptance. We searched the house but couldn't find her. Eventually, we discovered her sitting quietly in the backyard. We approached her to ask for her blessings, which she reluctantly gave when Gavin insisted. "Mom, I'm sorry I didn't talk to you before proposing to Audrey. It happened in the moment, and I thought it was right," Gavin explained. "Well, Gavin, you always discuss big decisions with me. I felt a bit left out this time," Meg replied with disappointment. "I know, and I didn't mean to upset you. I planned to talk to you the next day, but the surprise party changed everything," Gavin tried to explain. "I understand it was unexpected, but you should have found a way to talk to me before making such a big decision," Meg insisted. "You're right, Mom. I should have found a way. I got carried away with the excitement, and Audrey has been incredibly supportive. I wanted to show her how much she means to me." "I can see how much you care for her, Gavin. Just remember to keep me in the loop, especially for important decisions." "I promise, Mom. I'll do better at keeping you informed. You're a crucial part of my life, and I want you to be part of Audrey's and my journey together." "That's all I ask, dear." Feeling uncomfortable overhearing their conversation, I decided to step away, though I knew I wasn't eavesdropping. As I turned to leave, just a few steps away, I couldn't help but hear Meg criticizing me. She said I wasn't good enough for Gavin and that I was only interested in him for his money, adding that I wasn't even beautiful enough. Despite her hurtful words, I chose to ignore them and carried on. Over the next few weeks, Gavin and I began planning our wedding. Meg didn't offer any help with the preparations but insisted on making decisions, like my wedding dress. When I expressed my desire to choose my own dress, she threw a fit. She also met with me several times to insist I pay more than half of the wedding costs, claiming I was lucky to marry Gavin and should contribute more financially. I didn't let these incidents affect me too much, hoping Meg would warm up to me after the wedding. Finally, on my wedding day, I was in my dressing room with my bridesmaids and mother, getting ready in my beautiful white gown. Everyone around me complimented how stunning I looked. I heard a knock at the door and was surprised to see Meg walk in wearing a white wedding dress. "Why are you wearing a wedding dress today?" I asked. "It's my son's wedding day, and it's the most important day for me," she replied. "I chose to wear this dress to emphasize my role as the mother of the groom." "I understand it's a big day for you, but traditionally, the bride wears white. It might overshadow Audrey," I gently pointed out. "Well, that's not my concern. Gavin is my only son, and I deserve attention on this day too," Meg insisted. "Of course, Meg, but today is primarily about celebrating Audrey and Gavin's love and commitment. It's their special day," I calmly reasoned. "I understand that, but I'm making a statement. My presence here matters as much as anyone else's," Meg asserted firmly. Though I was furious, I didn't want to create a scene and spoil the day. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, and we exchanged heartfelt vows and rings. It was an emotional moment, marking the culmination of our long-awaited journey together. During the wedding planning, I had asked Gavin to handle the guest list. I noticed his father wasn't included and asked him about it. "Gav, are you sure about not inviting your father?" I asked gently. "He abandoned us. He doesn't deserve to be part of such an important celebration," Gavin replied firmly. I wanted to persuade him otherwise, but I decided not to push the issue further to avoid upsetting him on our special day. The next few months after our wedding were filled with happiness. Gavin and I cherished every moment together and began planning to buy our own house. We had always dreamed of living together and decided that getting married was the first step toward that goal. We started looking for our dream home, spending hours every day searching for options. One day while I was at work, Gavin called me. "Hey babe, I'm sorry, but an important meeting came up. I won't be able to go house hunting with you today," he explained. "No worries, darling. It happens. Don't stress about it. I can handle it on my own," I reassured him. "Thanks for understanding. I'll make it up to you, I promise," Gavin replied. "You better. Just focus on your meeting and we'll catch up later. Love you, I said. Love you too, babe, Gavin replied warmly. After work, I got into my car and headed to the property location. Looking at the details, I noticed it was a unit on the 10th floor of a building still under construction. When I arrived, I met with the realtor who mentioned another visitor had arrived under our name to view the property. Knowing Gavin was occupied, I was puzzled about who it could be. To my surprise, it was my mother-in-law waiting at the door, looking impatient. "Why are you here to see this property?" I asked her. "I wanted to make sure it's suitable for my son and that there's a place for me when I visit," she replied bluntly. I wasn't keen on Meg being involved, but to avoid upsetting Gavin, I let her join me. As we toured the house, Meg didn't hold back, criticizing the building's condition and dismissing the property as below her standards. By the end of the tour, I was frustrated and eager to leave. The realtor stepped away to take a call, warning us about the construction hazards. I started walking around and saw an incomplete staircase outside the house. Without noticing, Meg came up to me and suddenly kicked my right leg. I lost my balance and fell down the stairs. I couldn't move and felt soreness on my arms and head. When I looked up, I saw Meg smiling as if she had won something. Then she quickly turned and left. I was confused and unable to move for a few minutes. Eventually, I found my phone in my pocket and called for an ambulance, which arrived quickly. On the way to the hospital, I couldn't stop thinking about how Meg had tried to hurt me by pushing me down the stairs. I had always been kind to her since we met, so I felt sad and angry about her actions. At the hospital, they treated my injuries and I had to have some scans done. I tried calling Gavin several times, but he didn't answer. Eventually, the medication they gave me made me fall asleep. The next morning, I called Gavin again, and this time he answered. I told him everything that had happened between Meg and me. "You're making this up, Audrey. Are you seriously saying my own mother pushed you down the stairs?" Gavin exclaimed. "I'm not lying. I would never make something like this up. I fell because Meg kicked me. She intentionally hurt me," I replied, trying to stay calm. "You're just trying to defend yourself. My mom wouldn't hurt you for no reason," Gavin argued. "She accused you of being aggressive. I can't believe you're taking her side over mine. She pushed me down those stairs and now she's lying to protect herself. Please, stop defending her." I pleaded desperately. "I can't come to the hospital right now. Meg's in shock because of what you did, and I need to be with her," Gavin replied firmly. "You're choosing her over me after everything we've been through. You brought this on yourself. Maybe you deserve this for what you did," Gavin concluded coldly. Devastated, I started crying and ended the call. I felt lost and spent the next 2 days in grief and shock. Gradually, my injuries started to heal, and I regained my strength. My parents visited me and were shocked by the situation and Gavin's reaction. My father suggested looking into Gavin's father to uncover the truth, suspecting Gavin and Meg were hiding something. Following his advice, I hired a private investigator to locate Gavin's father, Neil, and contacted him. Initially confused about who I was, Neil eventually grasped the situation. "You know, I divorced Megan and left the house because she and Gavin were using me for my money. I'm the chairman of a big company, and Gavin wanted to steal from me," Neil revealed. "I had no idea. That's awful. I can't believe they would do something like that," I replied, shocked. "Yeah, it was a hard decision, but I couldn't let them take advantage of me anymore. I want you to know that those two are never up to any good," Neil warned. "Thank you for telling me, Neil. I believe you, and I'm grateful you're looking out for me," I expressed. "Now I have a plan to handle this situation. I need you to somehow get Gavin and Meg to visit you at the hospital tomorrow morning," Neil instructed. "Why do you want them to come here?" I asked, curious about his plan. "I need to confront them about their actions and protect you from any further harm. It's time they faced the consequences of their greed," Neil explained firmly. "All right, I'll do my best to get them here, but please be careful. I don't want anything bad to happen to you," I cautioned. "I'll handle it, Audrey. Just focus on your recovery," Neil reassured me. I was skeptical and somewhat scared, to be honest. I didn't want to see either Meg or Gavin because I couldn't bear to face a man who trusted his mother over his own wife, and who hadn't bothered to check on me in the hospital. Meg because I feared she might try to harm me again. But I knew if I wanted to expose their wrongdoing, I had to trust Neil. I called Gavin and told him I had a special gift for him and Meg as an apology for what had happened. I said I wanted them to come to the hospital to receive it, emphasizing its value. Hearing this, Gavin and Meg eagerly agreed to visit me the next morning. The next morning, Neil arrived at the hospital with flowers. I greeted him warmly and expressed my gratitude for his support. Just as we finished talking, Gavin and Meg walked in. They both froze in surprise and stared at Neil sitting calmly in a chair. "Neil, what's going on? Why are you here?" Gavin demanded. "I couldn't stand by and watch you and Gavin manipulate Audrey any longer," Neil replied calmly. Manipulate. We haven't done anything wrong. She's the one causing trouble, Meg interjected defensively. That's not true. Audrey has been through a lot because of both of you. It's time to put an end to this, Neil asserted firmly. Dad, you're messing everything up. Audrey and I love each other, Gavin protested. I divorced your mother because of what you were doing. You were trying to take advantage of me and my company. I was simply trying to protect my own future, Neil explained. Dad, you never supported me. You know that. I wouldn't have given you anything you asked for, yet you still tried to transfer my company into your name behind my back, Gavin argued. I don't want Audrey to go through the same ordeal. I have something here to ensure that doesn't happen, Neil declared, handing Gavin some papers. What are these? Gavin asked. Divorce papers. Gavin, so Audrey can finally be free from the toxic influence of both of you, Neil revealed calmly. Meg and Gavin were stunned. They started arguing loudly with Neil, pleading with him to reconsider. Neil stood firm, telling them they deserved the consequences of their actions for trying to harm someone innocent like me. He then called hospital security to escort Meg and Gavin out of the room, and they were removed. I had been through a lot, but finally, I had my justice. Neil and I maintained a strong friendship from then on. That wordless wife left that woman before things got worse. Once they thought I was asleep, my husband and his mother changed completely. They left home, but came back shamelessly, saying they didn't want to lose their money, causing chaos. When I confronted them, my name's Daisy. I'm 30. I got engaged to Brad after dating him for 5 years. We lived with his parents in their house. We planned to buy our own home when we had our first child. It's been almost 2 years now, but we haven't had a child yet, and we're still living with his parents. Living with my husband, his mom, and his younger brother, I often worried those around me. My parents lived far away, needing a flight to visit, and they regretted not being able to help more. Luckily, my husband was always kind, and I had a great relationship with my mother-in-law. We were so close that typical issues between in-laws didn't affect us, making me really happy. Then I had an accident and broke a bone. I was in the hospital, unable to move on my own. Right after the accident, my husband and mother-in-law visited me daily, concerned for my well-being. But now they only come once a week. I appreciated their visits, but the day after the doctor warned me about lasting injuries. She can't do any chores now, but she's going to cost us more than ever. What a useless wife. She still has health issues. Having kids seems even less likely now, right? Yeah, maybe. Now that it's like this, I'm glad we don't have kids. If she stays in bed forever, I'll have to do all the chores and care for her. That's not what I signed up for when we got married. Wasn't it her job to take care of the house and everything? If she hadn't gotten hurt, she could have kept working as our maid. What a letdown. Before this gets too complicated, we should get rid of her. I'll file for divorce soon. Thinking I was asleep, they had this conversation in my hospital room. To them, I was nothing more than a maid and caregiver. After that, my husband and mother-in-law treated me with obvious coldness. Your husband hardly visits, does he? He's probably looking for someone else. If only you had a child, maybe he'd stick around. My husband wasn't even coming once a week anymore. My mother-in-law seemed to pass the time by making hurtful remarks. But my brother-in-law was different. He did the laundry, checked on me, and was very supportive. He visited almost every day and took me outside in my wheelchair when I felt trapped by my long hospital stay. Physical therapy was exhausting, and there were times I wanted to give up, but my brother-in-law's support kept me going. I'm not getting worse, and my physical therapy is going well, but it's still uncertain if I'll have any lasting issues. When I shared this with my husband and mother-in-law. Really? See, I told you we should have gotten rid of her earlier. They started arguing about me. What are you two talking about? Aren't you being too harsh on Daisy, who's been taking care of our house and father all this time? In reality, I've been looking after my father-in-law for 5 years while dating my husband. When we first started dating, they suggested, since you're going to get married anyway, why not live together? Yeah, that sounds good. We can save money by living together and get married once we're settled. When I hesitated, they reassured me, it's fine. We have plenty of space, we won't intrude on your privacy, and you won't have to pay rent. You want to marry my son, right? How could I say no? But in return, Daisy, could you help take care of my father while you work from home? It's just for 4 to 5 hours a day when my mother is at her part-time job. My brother is also here, so you two can share the responsibility. My brother-in-law was also working from home, so he and I teamed up to care for my father-in-law at home. They had a close bond, especially over my father-in-law's hobby of collecting furniture, for which he even had a separate house. My brother-in-law and I enjoyed hearing about his hobby. My father-in-law cherished his caring son, Reagan. Over time, my father-in-law's health worsened, and after years of care, he passed away. After that, my husband proposed to me, saying, Thank you for always taking care of my father. Let's stay together and get married. Despite my efforts in housework and caregiving, once I became unable to move, my husband and mother-in-law treated me as if I were worthless. Even I, normally calm, felt furious. I insist you pay what you owe. Well, I want to avoid any trouble, so I'll let you have the house. Let's forget about dividing the rest of the property. I wondered if he would really give me the house, but my father-in-law had left a substantial inheritance, which was divided among my mother-in-law, Brad, and Regan. Each of them received around $300,000, so Brad seemed financially stable. Regan was tasked with handling all the paperwork with the executor and had to make multiple court visits, which was quite a hassle. No way, we can't give up the house. If we split the property, I'll lose half of my savings. It's just a big house in the countryside. Even if we give it to her, it's not a big deal. At best, it's worth about $100,000, and we'll have to deduct various fees when we sell it. It's cheaper than losing half of my savings. Well, if you think so, Brad, but what if she asks for more later? What if rumors start spreading in the neighborhood because we left her? The two argued over what to do with me. Then I'll fake her in, Regan, Brad's brother, interrupted. Why would you do that? Ah, you've had your eye on Daisy, haven't you? That's why you're so willing. You can have her if you want, but she's no longer any use to us. Don't expect to come back asking for Daisy or the house later. Sure, why would I? Just make sure you don't come asking for money later. And remember, you can't return damaged goods. Brad and Regan finalized the property transfer with legal paperwork through a lawyer. I'll take some money for my savings. You should find a younger, healthier, prettier woman to marry and build a better life. Sound good? Hey, Daisy, get a lawyer to start the divorce process quickly, they said. They planned to stay in a hotel for a while and left the room. Regan and I silently watched them leave. I needed to find a lawyer to start the divorce process. With Regan's help, I filed for divorce, and within a few days, Brad and I were legally separated. A week later, Brad and my mother-in-law packed their things and moved out of the house. It felt odd that Regan, Brad's brother, continued to visit me. Now that I'm no longer married to your brother, you don't have to worry about me, I told him. I'm doing this because I want to. Our connection wasn't just because you were married to my brother. We've worked together caring for Dad and managing the house. We've talked more in these 7 years than my brother ever did with me. We're friends, right? Regan said, smiling gently. All I could do was express my gratitude. A month later, I left the hospital. Even though I still had physical therapy sessions to attend, being home after such a long time felt like a relief. Do you think they'll really come back? I'm worried they might return and make me work again. I expressed my concern to Regan. If they do come back, I'll make sure they leave. I can't forgive how they treated you so badly. Besides, they have no right to return to this house, Regan reassured me firmly. Since I still couldn't move well, Regan took care of most of the household chores. Luckily, I could continue working from home as a freelancer, which helped financially. With regular physical therapy sessions twice a week, I recovered smoothly without any issues. A year later, I regained my independence and Regan and I shared the household duties. We spent more time together, even taking trips on our days off. Just as I thought our peaceful days would continue, a sudden storm approached. One night, while Regan and I were having dinner, someone knocked on the door and kept buzzing the intercom. Anxiously, I answered, and it turned out to be Brad. Hey, let me in, he demanded. Worried about disturbing the neighbors, I reluctantly opened the door, and Brad walked in without hesitation. What do you want? I asked, feeling uneasy. Huh? Why do I have to deal with this attitude just for coming home? This is still my home. Tell me what's going on and make me something to eat, Brad replied. What are you talking about? You're not living here anymore, I responded firmly. Oh, I'm hungry. Daisy, make me some food, he ordered. My ex-husband demanded that I make him food. Hey, stop. Why are you here? I questioned, trying to keep my composure. Well, I've almost run out of money. My mom will be here soon, so leave the door unlocked, he replied casually. I stayed silent, and he continued, Oh, you're all healed now. That's great. Let's get back together. You must have struggled without me. My ex-husband, still under the mistaken belief that I cared for him, approached me with an unwelcome familiarity. His audacity made me feel sick. Enough. I divorced you. I don't care about you anymore. Don't act like you're in charge. You've been living off my money this whole time, only capable of doing housework, I retorted firmly. Just do as I say and shut up, Brad shouted. Just then, the door opened, and his mother walked in. You left the door unlocked? That's careless, she scolded. What's going on here? She's getting too bold, she added, noticing the tension. So I was just giving her a bit of a lesson. She's gotten tough in the year we've been away. Brad and his mother began to settle in again, acting as if they belonged there. This is enough. This isn't your home. I'm calling the police, I asserted firmly. Oh yeah, about that. This house was originally in your father's name, right? So technically, with my mom and the inheritance, our previous agreement is null and void, Brad claimed loudly, making an unreasonable argument. You promised to give me the house. If you're backing out of that, then everything about the property division should be cancelled too. Give me half of the savings. Sure, but I don't have it anymore. Didn't I tell you before? I spent it all. I quit my job, blew it on drinks, risky investments, you name it. Brad's words shocked me. It was unbelievable that he could have spent such a large sum of money in just 1 year. I also owe about $20,000 in consumer finance debts. Can you pay it off for me? Brad asked, and at first, I thought he was joking, but his mother confirmed it was true. I can't lend you that much money, I replied firmly. I'm not asking for a loan. I'm telling you to pay it, Brad insisted. I'm not giving you any money. I'm calling the police, Regan declared as he dialed emergency services. You've gotten bolder in the past year. You're just trying to show off because Daisy is here. Brad started causing chaos in the house, even damaging the precious furniture that held sentimental value from my father-in-law. His mother joined in, laughing as she destroyed the furniture. That's my father-in-law's and aunt's memories, I pleaded, but Brad and his mother continued their rampage, ignoring my protests. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived, and I explained the situation to them. This is quite a situation. Let's hear your side of the story, the police officer said calmly. Huh? What's wrong with me breaking things in my own house? Brad retorted defensively. That's right, we're just getting rid of things we don't need. What's the issue? His mother chimed in. Seeing the police unsure how to respond, Regan intervened. This house has never belonged to these two. It's in Daisy's name, Regan clarified. What nonsense are you talking about? Brad exclaimed in disbelief. In fact, our father-in-law left a will through a lawyer before he passed away. You probably weren't aware. You took what you were told and left the rest to me. So this house has always been Daisy's, Regan explained calmly. When I confirmed this, Brad and his mother were stunned. So this isn't your property then? Oh, wait, but I'm her ex-husband. We're like family, right? Daisy will forgive me, Brad pleaded. Don't be ridiculous. Once you're an ex, you're a stranger. I didn't even know you were seeing another woman before our divorce was finalized, treating me like a maid, I responded firmly. No, that's not what happened. I was just following what my mom said. She made me do all this, Brad protested. What are you talking about? Your failed business, your failed relationships with young women, your gambling debts. Are these all because of me? His mother retorted. She then revealed that after our divorce, Brad had tried to marry a younger woman. He had also quit his job to start his own business, which failed within a month. Even though he had money initially, he became reckless after being rejected, gambling and claiming he could afford it. Now he was almost broke, with nearly nothing left. You brought this upon yourself. This is all Brad's fault, so please at least forgive me, his mother pleaded, their previous condescending attitudes replaced by desperation as they tried to shift the blame and beg for forgiveness. The police, having heard enough, began to take control of the situation. Regan and I stood our ground, making it clear that neither Brad nor his mother had any right to the house or my forgiveness. This is really unbelievable. No, I won't forgive either of you. And this isn't something from the past, is it? You were treating me like a servant just a moment ago, right? Not leaving when I asked you to is illegal. Also, the furniture collected by my late father-in-law belongs to me now, so you need to pay me for that. But all right, we'll pay you back. Just please don't call the police. You wouldn't want me to go to jail, would you? I actually don't care at all. By the way, we're married. It turns out I married my brother-in-law, Reen. Well, he was my brother-in-law before, and now he's my husband. It hasn't even been a year, and you've moved on to another man, my own brother, at that. What are you talking about? You moved on before you were even divorced, didn't you? You wouldn't give Daisy back to me no matter how many times I asked? Brad was left speechless. I don't care anymore. I'll pay for any damages. How much for my idiot husband's stuff? Well, if we calculate roughly, about $100,000. Huh? The furniture my father-in-law collected was all high-end pieces made by famous designers. Brad and his mother, who had no interest in these items, seemed to believe they were just junk. You're going to pay for what you've broken, right? We're not sure if we can get the same items, but make sure to pay properly. Brad and his mother, unable to afford such compensation, were distraught. For now, the police took both of them away for trespassing and vandalism. Of course, I didn't forgive them and went ahead with the lawsuit. Later, when Brad and his mother asked Reen for help, he bluntly rejected them, saying, I'm ashamed to even be related by blood. Brad and his mother were likely getting what they deserved. There's one more thing I kept secret. My father-in-law had told me to sell the house and use the money as I wished. Reen had told me the house was worth $100,000, but the documents actually showed it was worth around $500,000. It's in a good location, so it might sell for even more. But for now, Reen and I decided to take it easy in the house. My father-in-law left us with no plans to sell it. Eventually, we planned to sell the land and build a new house. I had some worries about having children, so after marrying Reen, I went to the gynecologist for a checkup. There were no issues with either Reen or me. Now, with the troublemakers gone, Reen and I are living happily together. My name is Ruby, and I'm 26 years old. I don't have a full-time job and have mostly kept to myself since middle school. I went to high school briefly but dropped out, so I only finished middle school. Since then, I've been living with my parents, working part-time jobs, and doing freelance work from online ads. I have an older brother named James who is 3 years older than me. He's very different from me. He's good at sports, has lots of friends, and is outgoing. James never wanted his friends to know about me. He never brought them home, and if we bumped into each other and his friends in public, he would ignore me. I accepted this and saw it as someone else's problem. Once James went to college and moved out, I stopped worrying about it. Then he started talking about getting married when he turned 29. It wasn't a surprise. Later, he decided to bring his fiancée to our parents' house. That day, I was at home when my brother arrived with his fiancée. "Mom, Dad, I'm back," I announced. My brother seemed surprised to see me sitting with our parents. "Sorry to interrupt," his fiancée said politely as she entered, unaware of my brother's reaction. When she greeted me with a puzzled look, I could tell she was silently asking my brother, "Who is this?" He probably hadn't mentioned me to her. "My name is James's mother," my mom introduced herself, "and my dad." The fiancé nodded politely but still looked confused. My dad didn't say anything about me. My parents have always been tough on me, especially compared to my accomplished brother. When we were young, they used to say things like, "Your brother can do it, why can't you?" But things changed as we got older. Eventually, they even started calling me a burden. It seemed like they planned to ignore me during this meeting too. "I'll go get some more drinks," my mom said as she got up. She whispered in my ear, "Why are you here? Go back to your room." I had come to this gathering hoping to connect with my family in my own way, but it seemed to be going wrong. Despite that, I couldn't just leave, so I stayed where I was. My brother's fiancée introduced herself as Emma. She was my age, 26, and very beautiful and elegant. She gave off a vibe that made me feel like I shouldn't talk to her casually. My brother seemed irritated. He probably didn't want me there. He introduced Emma to our parents, but he completely ignored me. I felt invisible. After discussing their upcoming wedding, the conversation turned to lighter topics. However, my brother continued to act as if I didn't exist. Then James asked, "So, Ruby, what do you do these days?" Before I could reply, my brother cut in, "Never mind, Emma, you don't need to talk to her," he said firmly. Emma looked visibly surprised. "Oh, okay," my mom quickly added, "Don't worry about it." "Yeah, don't worry. She's just a distant relative," my dad remarked, and that was the final straw for me. A stranger, huh? I thought. It seemed like reconciliation was never an option from the beginning. The meeting ended as if my presence didn't matter. Whether I was there or not, my brother and Emma soon got married and started building their own house to live in. My brother works at a well-known company and has a good income despite still being in his 20s. Emma decided to be a stay-at-home wife and quit her job. When my brother's house was finished, we received an invitation to their housewarming party. It was going to be a small gathering with Emma's relatives and my brother's bosses. My mom fretted, "Oh, it's done already. Time flies. We need to pick out a nice housewarming gift." My dad shrugged and said, "We're family, it doesn't have to be anything fancy," as he casually set aside the invitation. Only my parents' names were on the invitation, mine was missing. My mom seemed to notice but still asked, "Ruby will be coming too, right?" I wasn't sure what to make of it. They hadn't exactly introduced me well at the last gathering. "It's okay if I'm not invited," I declined, but my mom insisted, "No, you're coming. I'll make sure of it." So I ended up going to the party. On the day of the event, it suddenly started raining. My parents and I took a taxi to my brother's house. Because of the rain, my brother and his wife didn't come out to greet guests at the entrance. When we arrived, my mom turned to me and said, "You pay for the taxi," then hurried inside with my dad, both without umbrellas. That explains it, I thought. Our house was quite far from my brother's, and taking a taxi seemed extravagant. I ended up footing the bill for the ride. After paying, I rushed towards the entrance where Emma asked me, "Who are you?" We had only met once before. Maybe she forgot. Assuming so, I introduced myself again. "I'm Ruby, James's sister," I replied, trying to introduce myself. But Emma smiled and said casually, "Oh, the high school dropout, interesting. We didn't invite the freeloader living off their parents." My brother had just returned and overheard this. He looked at me with disdain and asked, "What are you doing here?" "James, I told you not to invite her. Why is she here?" "Well, I'm not sure either. My brother clearly didn't want me there." Emma's attitude towards me changed once she learned who I was. Actually, she's even worse than my brother and parents. Would it have been better if I hadn't come? I asked my brother cautiously. "Yeah, you're practically a stranger with your lack of education. Not finishing high school doesn't even count," my brother replied coldly. Emma chimed in, siding with him. "Could you please leave the property now?" Her calm expression throughout was truly unsettling. "Got it," I said, turning away. The taxi we arrived in was gone, and since we weren't on a main road, finding another one looked tough. I didn't have an umbrella. I walked slowly, getting soaked in the rain. I could hear Emma laughing behind me. Eventually, I made it back home. My parents returned looking happy. They saw my wet face and asked, "Why did you leave suddenly?" "Couldn't you call a taxi to get back?" "You're so useless," my mom complained, like it was expected. "Sorry, I suddenly felt sick. I lied to cover up." "You left on your own over that? You're hopeless. Don't forget to give them the gift later. You're an adult," my dad scolded me. I had prepared a gift for the party but brought it back without giving it. I wanted to send it by mail, but I didn't have the address. I could ask my parents, but things felt awkward, so I decided to contact my brother instead. "I want to send a gift. Can you tell me the address?" That's all I asked my brother. His reply? "I don't give my address to strangers, okay?" I sighed deeply. Is it really amusing for him to assert dominance over me in private, not just embarrass me in front of others? It was baffling. Maybe Emma was there too, typing away and laughing at the situation. Either way, it was absurd. I gave up on sending a gift to congratulate my brother and his wife on their housewarming party. Instead, I decided to leave home. I realized I couldn't connect with my family anymore, so I chose to live independently. Despite only having part-time work, I had some savings. With that, I managed to rent a room and live on my own. It wasn't much, so I decided to try streaming videos in my spare time. I already enjoyed watching streams as a hobby and was good at spotting trends among popular streamers and finding ways to increase views. When I started streaming, I began earning tens of thousands of dollars each month. As my income grew, it covered all my living expenses. With the money I didn't need for daily life, I started investing, and those investments turned out successful. Encouraged by this, I ventured into running a small business importing and selling goods. I kept busy and felt fulfilled every day. I didn't have a family complaining about me spending too much time on the computer. A few months later, I received a call from my parents, who hadn't contacted me since I left home. "We need you to help James financially," they said. "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. I wondered what had happened to my brother, who had just built a new house. Slowly, my parents began to explain the situation. "Apparently, after moving into his new house, your brother started hosting frequent parties and interacting with various people, bosses, executives, clients, and Emma's friends. During one of these gatherings, someone proposed an investment opportunity and your brother trusted them. He ended up losing a large amount of money, drawn in by the promise of quick, high returns." I was stunned. My brother had a stable job, so it seemed like such a big mistake could have been avoided if he had just focused on his work. "Who recommended this investment? Could it be a scam?" I asked. "No, it's not. It was suggested by one of Emma's friends," my parents replied, placing full trust in Emma. "How much money do you need?" I asked, shocked by the amount. It was far more than an ordinary company employee could easily lend. "Is that really how much my brother needs to borrow?" I hesitantly questioned my parents, fearing the answer I knew was coming. We were also approached with the same investment opportunity. My parents hesitated before admitting. "I can't come up with that much money easily, I'm sorry." I tried to end the call, but they insisted, saying, "We're your family, help us in times like these." "Family? It's too late for that. I'm busy, and I'm practically a stranger to you now, right?" With that, I hung up. Later, somehow they found out and showed up with my brother's family at the office of my company. I was in a meeting at the time. My secretary informed me, "There are guests here for you, Mr. President." "I don't have any other appointments scheduled." "Who are they?" I felt uneasy. I apologized to my business partner and briefly excused myself. When I reached the reception area, I saw my pregnant sister-in-law Emma, my brother, and my parents. "You're running a company, huh? It's much smaller than where I work," my brother smirked, glancing around my office. "Who are you?" I asked bluntly, pretending not to recognize them. "What's with the attitude?" my brother shouted, losing his temper. My mother stepped in and explained, "We discussed this before, but we really need your help. You're successful with your company, so you can support us, right?" She asked for money shamelessly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Yeah, it's a critical time for our family." Emma is pregnant, and the baby's health isn't good, so we need to see a good doctor. Please, Ruby, my father and Emma added, making it sound like it was my responsibility to solve everyone's financial problems. Employees passing by the reception area glanced over with concern. Wanting to end the situation quickly, I said firmly, please leave. You're causing a disturbance. My brother erupted in anger again. What? We're a disturbance? We came all this way and that's how you talk to your family, he yelled. The employees stopped to listen, facing them. My brother started causing a scene. Do you all know she dropped out of middle school? She was a recluse? No good. He seemed determined to humiliate me into giving him money. However, the employees responded in a way my brother didn't anticipate. We know. Everyone is aware of the president's background, including me. The president hires many people from similar situations. Is there an issue? One of my employees responded calmly. My brother, who usually socializes only with highly educated and wealthy individuals, seemed taken aback and stumbled over his words. Well, my father began. What a sorry excuse for a company, just a gathering of misfits. My brother joined in. Exactly. Companies that do business with a place like this can't be any good either, he shouted loudly. At that moment, the president of the company I was meeting with stepped out of the reception room, having heard the commotion. My brother's expression turned blank, then pale as he faced the man. The president approached him directly. What's the matter, James? Emma asked my brother. Idiot, don't say my name, my brother whispered urgently to Emma, but it was too late. James? Oh, it's you, the company president said as he walked up to my brother. You are the guy who manages the division at Mr. Long's company, right? We greatly appreciate your company's services. It turned out that his company was also a client of my brother's business. My brother was visibly sweating, his face flushed with embarrassment. Well, I suppose we're not that memorable since we're not a big company, my brother faltered when the president turned his own words against him. He visibly froze. Sensing the tension, my father, mother, and Emma fell silent. Ignoring them, I apologized to the president again, determined to defuse the situation. I'm sorry for taking up your valuable time. I'll ask them to leave. Oh, are you sure? I have time today, so I don't mind waiting. Your family is important, the president offered. No, they're not my family, I asserted, glancing at my parents' and brother's family. They're complete strangers. Following that, my parents' and brother's family were escorted out of the company. Perhaps stunned by the president's unexpected intervention, they left quietly. Curious about how my business became exposed, I decided to investigate. It turned out Emma was the catalyst. She had a friend who was well connected in investment circles and always kept informed. This friend came across information about a young woman in her 20s who was gaining recognition as a skilled trader and company owner. Emma was shocked to see a photo of this woman in the media and realized it was her husband's sister, whom she had heard was a middle school dropout. Emma shared this discovery with my brother and parents, suggesting they approach me for financial help. When their attempts to reach me during the day went unanswered, and I didn't return their calls about money, they showed up at my company. Since I had been treating them as strangers, I decided to distance myself from them. However, my curiosity led me to look into Emma's friend who had been involved in my family's financial troubles. To my surprise, that friend turned out to be Emma's ex-boyfriend, and it appeared they were still connected in some way. The situation with Emma turned out to be even more shocking. The child she was carrying wasn't my brother's but actually belonged to the investor she had been involved with. No way! My brother was devastated, understandably so, as everything had been based on lies. It became apparent that she had been manipulating several men for money under the guidance of her ex-boyfriend. Naturally, my brother and Emma divorced, and both of them are now in police custody. Unfortunately, the money lost in the investment won't be recovered anytime soon. Following the incident at my company, my brother's career took a downturn. Despite being in his 20s, he was moved to a less prominent department and eventually resigned, likely frustrated by the financial troubles and personal turmoil. As for my father, he faced repercussions after the president witnessed him losing his temper with a subcontractor at work. An investigation into his behavior led to his termination. It came to light that he had a history of belittling those without higher education, similar to how he used to treat me. So both my brother and father ended up losing their jobs. Despite their decreased income, the former family still tries to contact me, suggesting we live together again. With everything that happened, we're still family, right? They try different tactics to cling to me, but my response remains consistent. I don't know you. You're complete strangers to me. I have no intention of giving any other response in the future. I've made sure they can't enter my company's building anymore, so they can't force their way in. My husband Oliver told me, I married you because you're the boss's daughter, with a smile. I was sick in bed, looking at the scarves and gloves I'd knitted for him tossed aside without care. His words hurt, making me realize I needed to confront him. Oliver and I have been married for 5 years. We don't have kids, but we've been happy together. He's always busy with work, which sometimes leaves me feeling lonely. But he tries to make time for us on his days off, which helps. I met Oliver through my dad, who used to be his boss. Oliver suggested I stay home after we got married, which seemed like a good idea at the time. It gave me time to pursue my hobbies like sewing and knitting. Every winter, I made Oliver scarves and gloves. At first, they weren't very good, but I improved over time. Oliver started saying they were as good as store-bought ones, which made me happy and encouraged me to keep sewing. One day I told Oliver, someday when we have a child, I want us to sew together. He smiled and replied, maybe I'll learn when the time comes. I always supported Oliver, took care of the house, and made sure we spent time together on his days off. With his high salary, we seemed to live a privileged life to outsiders. I was content with this life, imagining a quiet future with my kind husband and our child. About 2 years ago, our peaceful life was interrupted. I suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed while waiting for Oliver to come home. He rushed me to the hospital. When I woke up in a hospital bed, I overheard Oliver talking to the doctor. My symptoms were serious and likely something I would have to deal with for life. It wasn't life-threatening immediately, but it could happen again. Given my condition, doctors advised me to stay in the hospital until I recovered somewhat. Seeing my anxiety, Oliver reassured me, you'll be here for a while, but don't worry. I'll visit whenever I have time off from work. We'll get through this together. His words and his hand in mine eased my worries. With him by my side, I felt everything would be okay, despite not having any real guarantees. True to his promise, Oliver visited me nearly every day after that. He held my hand, checked on me, and brought my favorite sewing tools when I mentioned how boring the hospital days were. We spent time sewing together and chatting about little things that happened each day. Teaching him to sew was surprisingly enjoyable, and it helped pass the time. But after about a year, the regular visits dwindled. Instead of daily, Oliver started showing up only every few weeks. I figured he must be busy with work and continued sewing, planning to give him the finished scarf I was working on when he visited next. The doctor said I'd be discharged by the end of the year, so I also started making gloves to give him. After a long time apart, I poured my emotions into making the gloves for Oliver. But when he finally visited, he looked coldly at the gloves and said, "Are you still making these? It's annoying." He handed me back the scarf I'd made and divorce papers. The scarf, which I'd worked on tirelessly, looked brand new, untouched since I gave it to him. "You've been in the hospital for 2 years now. I heard you're getting discharged soon, but I can't keep taking care of you," he said. "Let's get a divorce." I looked at the divorce papers. Oliver had already signed them. I thought, so this is how it ends. Truthfully, I'd thought about this possibility ever since he stopped visiting regularly. I tried to convince myself he was just busy with work, but I knew the real Oliver wouldn't neglect me like this. If work had gotten in the way, he would have told me. When he stopped coming without explanation, I knew this was coming. That's why I managed to ask calmly why he wanted a divorce. I wasn't trying to hold on to Oliver. In fact, I knew I had probably become a burden to him. If the kind Oliver I knew wanted a divorce, then I guessed I had no choice. But since Oliver had promised we face things together, I was curious why he had changed his mind. When I asked him, still dazed, Oliver replied harshly, "Isn't it obvious? Since I married you, it's been nothing but trouble. I'm tired of those scarves and gloves you give me every year. I only married you because your father's the boss. How am I supposed to handle you getting sick on top of everything?" He laughed at me mockingly, saying he was fed up with dealing with me. It seemed he resented my innocent enjoyment of our life together. Whenever I talked about happiness, love, or loneliness, he seemed to think I was foolish. Who even wears handmade scarves anymore without feeling embarrassed? Getting those things from you is annoying and a hassle. As Oliver spoke, I noticed he was wearing a luxurious scarf that I hadn't given him. It was clearly better quality than the ones I had made. I wondered if he had never used any of my gifts before. Perhaps they had always annoyed him, and I hadn't realized. After I got sick and my father retired, Oliver no longer had to pretend to care about me at work. Having a sick wife became a convenient excuse for him. In the first year, he made a show of visiting me between his work duties. I could imagine my father, before retiring, praising Oliver at work for being a good husband who worked hard while looking after his sick wife. Oliver had crafted this image for himself and was well liked by his colleagues. That's what he wanted, and it seems my value to him was only realized when I fell ill. When I confronted him with these thoughts, Oliver looked surprised and admitted, "Well, it did make things easier at work. Whenever I mentioned you, people were sympathetic and treated me well. If I worked late, I was praised for being dedicated. If I needed a break, I just had to say my wife is, and that was enough." He said this without a hint of regret. He had cleverly used my illness to his advantage in ways I hadn't known. And as for my upcoming promotion, well, they may be idiots, but I owe it to your illness, he added. As I listened with my head bowed, I looked up when he finished speaking. Instead of the man I loved, I saw a cruel grin on his face. I realized this was his true self. Well, if I could be of some use, then that's good. We probably won't see each other again, so take care, I calmly said, returning the divorce papers to him. He took them without a second glance and swiftly left. That marked the end of our marriage, and I silently cried. After some time, I left the hospital and moved back in with my parents. When my father heard what had happened, he was outraged. I never expected him to be like that, he said. But I had already made my peace. I reassured my father and told him I wanted to stay with them. After tidying up the house, my parents understood and encouraged me to do what made me happy. For now, that meant living with them. Before moving back with my parents, I decided to visit our old house. But when we arrived, the front door lock was broken. Perplexed, we rang the doorbell and were met by a stranger. I asked him about it, and he told us he had bought the house a few months ago and was now living there happily with his family. My parents were furious, but I chose not to disturb the new residents and quietly left. Unable to leave it be, I called my husband right away. He casually replied, "Yeah, I sold it while you were in the hospital. Keeping the money as my compensation. It was my house originally, so you can't complain, right?" His nonchalant words made me sigh. I wish he had told me sooner, I thought. From what I learned, the house had been sold about a year ago, around the time he started showing less concern for me. Even if he had planned to divorce me, selling our home without discussing it was shocking. Although we had finalized our divorce by signing the papers, we still needed to discuss dividing our assets after my discharge. We had scheduled a meeting for the following week, but my husband had acted on his own, which was beyond belief. When I calmly confronted my husband over the phone, telling him he didn't understand anything, he seemed puzzled. "What do you mean?" he asked. I replied, "I'll explain next week," and hung up. I smiled at my concerned parents and asked my father for a favor. I shared my plans with him and asked him to get everything ready. "I've already prepared all the necessary documents. There's not much time before our meeting next week, but we'll manage," my father said, with a slightly worried smile. As my father, he probably felt guilty for introducing me to my husband. His anger toward my husband spurred him to do everything possible to help me. I thanked him and looked forward to our meeting day. Just imagining my husband's face made me smile for the first time in a while. With my father's support, I got ready for the meeting. We decided to meet at my parents' house. We sat in a row, my parents and I on one side, and my husband on the other. He must have known my parents were hurt by the divorce, but he seemed indifferent now. He probably felt there was no need to respect my parents anymore. He remained composed, even showing a hint of a smirk. His attitude was disrespectful and arrogant. "I'm the one who's been wronged here, but I don't plan to ask for too much," I said calmly. "The money from selling the house will be enough," my husband replied, trying to appear generous. My father's face turned red with anger, but I gently placed my hand on his to calm him. We knew that in this discussion my husband was the one at a disadvantage, so there was no need for us to get overly upset. "Before we proceed, there's something important to discuss," I continued, and my father handed over a document. It proved that the land under the house my husband sold belonged to my father. "Yes, the house was in your name, that's clear. But the land belongs to my father, and he holds the title," I explained, showing him the document. My husband frowned slightly. "So what? The house was still mine. No one can complain. Do you think this gives you a way to get back at me?" He chuckled as if he found the whole situation absurd. "It's true that legally, selling the house under my husband's name posed no issues, even though the land belongs to my father," I explained further. "However, this creates a significant problem for the family who bought the house. You sold the house, right? But since my father owns the land, he could demand rent from the family living there. Wouldn't that cause trouble?" I questioned. "We're not planning to take that step, but we won't give up our land rights for nothing. In this situation, our plan is to offer the family the opportunity to purchase the land. We won't ask them to leave or charge rent monthly, but it would be problematic if they refuse to buy the land. Originally, my father intended the land as a gift for us to live on, not to be given away freely to strangers. If they refuse, the family who bought the house might even sue you because the deal wasn't as they were led to believe. Imagine their frustration buying their dream home only to find out they have additional expenses." After we confirmed my father's ownership of the land, we went straight to the family who bought the house. When we explained the situation, they were understanding. They agreed that if there were any legal issues, it would be the seller's responsibility, meaning my husband. They mentioned they might sue him if negotiations failed. Seeing my husband's face go pale, I knew he realized the seriousness of the situation. He understood he could face significant financial consequences. In a shaky voice, he asked, "What should I do?" I smiled and replied, The family could buy the land from us to settle everything smoothly. You'll have to cover that cost. Once they own both the house and land, all current issues will be resolved. Since they weren't informed of the land's value when buying the house, they might demand compensation from you. But that's their decision. The problem is, due to its prime location, the land could be worth more than the house. Even if my husband sells all his assets, it might not be enough. In the end, he could be left with nothing. Alternatively, you could buy back the house and pay for the land, along with a relocation fee to the family. This would return both the house and land to your possession. You could then sell them again, possibly making some money. However, after paying the relocation fee, it's unlikely you'd end up with much, I explained. Either way, you're facing losses, I continued. And regarding alimony, your actions have caused me significant mental distress. I intend to seek compensation for that, so keep that in mind. I've come to realize you used me as a pawn for your career ambitions. Now that I know this, I'm repulsed by everything you've done, and I plan to pursue damages for the emotional distress it's caused me. While evidence may be limited and winning uncertain, discussing this matter is crucial given your current situation. Cornered, Oliver may soon face these harsh realities, my father added. Despite being retired, I still have many connections from my career. I've been in touch with former colleagues who have shared your opinions and actions regarding my daughter. You're being looked down upon by everyone, Oliver. With a cheerful smile, my father shared the news, and finally, Oliver understood the gravity of his situation. The status he had built at work, using me and the money from selling the house without my consent, was slipping away. Now let's discuss what happens next, I said, clasping my hands together and smiling. It was a different smile from any Oliver had seen before, brighter since our separation. You must understand that the fate of your assets will be decided today, I continued. Drawn in by my words, Oliver could only manage a forced laugh, tears in his eyes. The negotiations favored me, and Oliver agreed to pay alimony. We also settled that Oliver would compensate for the land where the house stood, which we then explained to the family who bought our house. In the end, everyone benefited except Oliver, who lost everything. The rumors my father started spread through the company, causing Oliver to lose his status and halt his chances for promotion. As the rumors continued, Oliver found himself isolated, and eventually my father informed me that Oliver had resigned. It's tempting to see it all as karma, as gains made through exploitation are fragile. What Oliver thought he had achieved turned out to be fleeting. As for me, I'm living in my parents' home now and teaching sewing classes. My classes aren't packed, but I earn a decent income thanks to local participants like neighborhood women and children. Although I couldn't have children of my own, as I once mentioned to Oliver, I've discovered that sharing my passion brings me genuine happiness.